got a bunch of stuff to do tonight. Joe, you'll get started with word prayer, please.
Heavenly Father, thank you for giving us a day and another day and an opportunity to serve you. And I ask that you put us in places you need us to be a witness and be a ministry for you. I ask that you give us opportunities beyond belief to help make this city grow and provide for our citizens in the way that they expect us to represent them. We thank you for what you do for us and all that you do for us. And I ask you to forgive us for where we fail you and make us better people and better Christians for you. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen. Okay, Joe, you want to get Greg in here real quick?
Here, Greg.
Thank you.
You see Greg right there, Mayor? Run that thing home. I don't see it.
Am I starting our presentation today?
Printed out chamber banquet that they put in big frames. I was told that we still have such a printer.
I don't think we printed them. Did we? Shannon?
All right, guys, we got Greg Atkinson. Everybody's here. Everybody here is familiar with Greg Atkinson, the Commissioner of Talladega County for our area. Greg's got some handouts and said he just needed a couple of minutes here.
Here we go.
Yeah, I did, for sure.
Two.
Thank you.
And I'm on the agenda for Wednesday for a public hearing on rezoning some land from R1 to B4. That's the 37 acres out on 280. We already have a recommendation from the Planning Commission. And what we want to put there is a 60-person supportive living for retired disabled veterans. And we have a group from out of area looking at building that there, but they need the property zoned so they can proceed with negotiating on the property. I think it's a good investment for Sylacauga if we can get them to come here. And just want to see if y'all had any questions or anything.
How many acres is it?
There's about 36 acres there in the parcel. They're probably going to take somewhere between 6 to 10, possibly 18. But Tom Biven, the owner of the property, wants the whole thing rezoned.
36 acres.
36 acres, because it's already as a separate parcel.
Is that it?
That's it. That's
Okay.
roughly the drawing where we want to put the facility. And I've met with some of y'all, and if anybody would like to see the property, just give me a call. I'll be glad to drive you down there. It's a little bit steep. I've got a 4-wheel drive, but we do need to go after it's been dry for at least 2 or 3 days, because I would like to get off the property too.
I'm in a residence with it.
We're looking at possibly 70 to 80, because we're looking at 60 units, and these are one level. You've got a diagram in there. These are 1-bedroom to 2-bedroom, basically apartments, because you'll have veterans with needs that may be paraplegics there. You may have people that have very minor disabilities there, or just senior veterans. So it will be similar to an apartment complex or townhomes, except there'll be a nurse on staff if somebody needs medical help, and they'll be able to do therapy there. That's why we need the B4 zoning, because this will be supportive living for different needs. And I know there's one in Alexander City that has about 200 beds there, but this is going to be probably the nicest in the state, because the veteran and spouse can live there. And some of your retirement homes, basically they have a Foot Locker. This, they'll be able to have a lifestyle, because you'll have a bedroom, a living room, a kitchen, and they can keep most of their furniture and possessions. And the developers that are working on this, once we get it rezoned, they will start getting an architect to look at it and start having meetings in the community in the area, because what their goal is to design the facility for those that are going to be living there. you got, 5 paraplegics, or if you have 20, you have a different setup on the facility. And most people that move into these will stay there at least 5 years or longer, usually for their life. So they want to design it for the community that's gonna live there. And they've already had, some talks with veterans groups, but we'll see a lot more of that once the zoning's passed, and they'll have some architectural drawings. The copies of the photos outside the buildings you have there are just generalizations. You may see it with more stone or maybe some marble, trying to incorporate some of the local product that we have here with that. But they're looking at doing a first-class facility, but they are looking at other areas, and that's why, we wanna go as fast as we can with this, and I know we're having a public hearing Wednesday. And, if there's not much opposition, I would really like for y'all to consider maybe suspending the rules and going to a vote if you could. But just whatever y'all can do, but, if y'all have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Is this gonna be a BA1 facility?
It will have to be, because my understanding is that they were looking at first using federal funds, and I think they're going straight investors on this one. But it's, and I may speak out of turn, but it's almost like Section 8 on rental property. When you have the qualified individuals there, the federal government helps guarantee the rent payment, or they pay a lot of that for the disabled veterans.
But the question was, will it be operated by the VA?
Oh, I don't know about that. Let me say, I'm not sure. I'm gonna back up. It's gonna be approved by the VA, I know. And it can only be used for this facility, for this purpose, for 40 years. I mean, they require it to be used for this purpose, because if it's built for this use, I think there's some federal funds involved, or program where it cannot be used for a apartment. It has to be senior disabled veterans. Now, there may be a possibility that if you don't have enough disabled, you may have some senior veterans in there, but this is for veterans.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Have they said how much land, how much of that they want, Greg?
I met with some of them about 2 weeks ago, and they initially wanted 6 to 8 acres, or 6 to 10 acres. And some of that's gonna depend on the architect, once they did the survey on the site, to see how the contour of the land is. They're considering asking for more property, or buying more property now, maybe the front section, because they haven't had a lot of meetings with vets yet, but from what they have heard, they think there's gonna be a good demand, so they might expand it at some point, maybe another 30 units. So they may wanna take, closer to 16 or 18 acres there, maybe half of it. That would still leave, a good bit of property left over though, so.
And did you say the other day when you and I talked, the entrance to that is gonna be down there where that road is, where we
went in, there's a road cut, I guess it's maybe a quarter of a mile from 21, or half a mile from 21 back up, and then there's another road cut that Larry Reeves is using to have, for a pipe company, I think, right there. And before we went before the Planning and Zoning Commission, I had to ask the Parks and Rec Board to withdraw their request for looking at this property for a sports park. And we worked out a deal with Larry Reeves where we could use some 40 of his acres down there and just move the park down. A lot of the residents that lived in that neighborhood backing up to it seem to be pleased that we're moving it further down. And also, Eddie clarified at the meeting that once this property is zoned B4, you cannot use it for a park. I mean, it can be used as a therapeutic park because it's medical.
Yeah.
But as far as a public park, it could not be used for that. So it will change the land usage there, but it also, I guess it benefits the neighborhood because they want more of a buffer and quiet area, so they'll get that. Doug, any other questions?
Is the owner gonna be there Wednesday, do you think, or?
I don't think Tom is. I talked to him, and
I'd like, is there any way, I mean, I know that he has not, and he probably can't make any commitments on what's gonna happen to the rest of the property.
it just depends on what goes on with that and what they can work out. I mean, there's been some negotiations on buying extra land and just using nature around there.
Okay.
But it comes down to price. And I can't really say what that, because that's kind of a private
Right.
issue. I mean, they made a price to the city to buy the property for a park, but this is a little bit different. But, you know, I'd love to see some way to work out, still have a park there and maybe a nature preserve or something.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know if you told me about it. I showed Doug the property the other day. When we drove up to go in there was 2 deer standing right there looking at us. So there's definitely nature out there.
But they didn't show up at the public hearing.
No, they
Oh, they
didn't.
wouldn't
No.
come.
Any other questions or?
All right.
Well, I'll see y'all Wednesday
If not,
morning.
okay.
Thank y'all for the time.
Thank you,
See
Greg.
y'all later.
Appreciate it,
Thank you,
buddy. All right, guys, real quick. We've got a couple of things from the fire department. Well, we've got one item. Approve expenses for fire department firefighter Sam Ogilvy to attend RT Rope 1 trainer, the Alabama Fire College. That's in Tuscaloosa. It's August 18th through 22nd. No registration fees. Fees for meals will be incurred. Any questions? Okay, very good. We've got a few things for the police department. We'll kind of start at the top, or at item number 10. Approve expenses for police department officer Kelly White to attend the Mexican cartels and their violence course in Meridian, Mississippi. It's August 19th through 21st. There's no registration fees, but expenses for meals will be incurred. This is some more of those classes that we've sent folks to over in Meridian. Any questions regarding that? Okay. Item number 11, expenses for police department Lieutenant Willis Watley and Cassie Everson to attend the crime stats and UCRNIBRS. What is that, Chris?
It's a federal reporting program where we are required to report certain crimes to the feds, and we have to have people that are trained and prepared to do it.
Okay. This is for the police executive to be held at the Birmingham Police Academy August 27th. Registration is $145 per employee. Meals will be incurred. Any questions regarding that? Okay. Item number 12, approve expenses for Sergeant Matt Inlet and Officer Adam Grantham to attend the Field Training Officer Leadership Seminar in Birmingham August 15th. Registration fee is $99. Additional expenses for meals will be incurred. Questions? Okay. If not, Chris?
One more thing concerning the police department. Friday, Officer Willie Kidd retires. We passed an ordinance several years ago to give the officers their duty weapon and badge when they retired. So it's in the ordinance. All we're asking you to do is declare that weapon surplus.
And
then
the
we'll
badge.
give it to him Friday.
And the firearm and the badge, man.
Yeah, the badge also.
Okay.
So we need to put that on the agenda.
Put that on the
declare
agenda
that
for
surplus.
Wednesday morning.
Is he retiring Friday?
He retired August 1st. Friday at 1 o'clock in the lobby is his party. You could all try to come. And also tomorrow from 6 to 8 is National Night Out down at Noble.
I need numbers.
Huh,
I need numbers.
serial numbers.
You get that to her?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything else for Chris while he's here? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. All righty. We'll go ahead and get started with these interviews. We've got Gloria Owens out there right now. Here you go.
You want Gloria?
Yeah, you don't mind. Trish, let's look up at the top, at the very top, old business. We've got that retail liquor application for the hibachi sushi buffet. Action will be required this time. We brought that up.
Did you figure out how to pronounce that name?
The director. And so we got that. Don't we usually have a report from the police department no problem there.
Check of police and court files does not reveal any local records for the individual listed on the application would prevent him from obtaining this license.
Thank you very much. Of course, we've got the public hearing, that's what Greg was here about. Our auditors are going to be here tomorrow during the Wednesday during the council meeting to present our audit. From what I've been told, everything looks good. There, of course, are always a few little issues that come up, but that's why we pay those folks. What we pay them is to find those issues. So, I am assuming they'll follow suit as they have in the past after the council meeting, maybe, stay around. Okay, so.
I think that's what the plans are.
Okay, all right, good deal. Special use permit to be issued to Sprint for modifications to the existing cell tower, 596 Sorrel Road. That recommendation is coming from the Center for Municipal Solutions.
David is here.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me go get him.
Or he was.
I didn't see him out there. There's a bunch of people out there. David? I found him.
Good afternoon.
We were just going over this special use permit for that existing cell tower over on Sorrel Road.
Yes, sir.
What you got for us?
Sprint has made application to modify the site on 596 Sorrel Road. It's a 250 self-support tower. They're currently on the tower at 250 feet. They currently have 3 antennas on the tower and 4 feed lines. What Sprint is wanting to do is take the 3 antennas off the tower that's on it because technology has updated and these are old antennas. So they want to provide LTE technology from that site. So they want to put 3 new antennas on the tower. And they're only going to put 3 new feed lines on there because the 3 new feed lines are going to be fiber lines. So it'll be much faster communication. And this shouldn't increase the service area in that area any at all. But what it's going to do is it's going to increase the internet speeds and the download speeds from the site.
Okay.
Capacity.
Capacity is all it's going to improve.
Now, the new antennas won't increase the height.
No, they will not increase the height of the tower. The new antennas will actually be just the same size or a little bit smaller than what's on the tower.
Okay.
The tower is a 250-foot self-support tower, and it has lighting on the tower per FAA requirements. And during the site visit, all that was working. The only issue we had that is a condition on the resolution is, I believe, condition number 5. When we did the pre-application site visit, Sprint did not have signage on their equipment, which is a requirement of the city ordinance. So at the final inspection, we're going to make sure they put a little sticker on there with emergency contact information, and there was no safety issues at the site. So.
Okay. Pretty straightforward, guys. Any questions for David while he's here?
There was a question that was sent to Mignon about the last one, the AT&T tower.
Yes.
I didn't,
She talked to AT&T. She'll be contacting you shortly.
I've talked with her, but I think Councilman Hogan is the one who's.
She spoke with the AT&T contractor this afternoon on that site on Blythe Lane, and when AT&T bought Dish Network, they put all of their cell phone sites on hold. The problem is in the state of Alabama, they have time limits where they have to build those out. So that site's probably not going to be completed till the first of the year. So Mignon's gonna talk to the city about where you wanna go from that, where you wanna go with that. She said she would call you and talk to you about it. So when I was on the way down here, I talked to Mignon and she said she just got off the phone with the contractor, so that was all new information. So when they passed that resolution, they had a 90-day build out for that site, and we're past the 90-day build out.
So that one has expired, they'll have to make new application.
So if the city wants them to make new application, if that's the road that the city wants to go, that's the reason Mignon said, just let me call and talk to Tricia and we'll see which direction you wanna go.
Okay.
So, but it is not built out. I've been to the site. I actually went by the site the last time I come through Sylacauga, and the shelter is constructed. The groundwork was almost complete. I'm assuming they probably come in and finished the groundwork, but there was no antennas or no coax or anything else on the tower. It was just a shelter, and I'm sure the shelter was empty because it didn't look like they had put any equipment inside the shelter. So that was probably almost a month ago when I did a site down in Opelika, and I just swung by and checked it out. Cause they had some complaints about some red dirt, and I think one of the city officials had went out and checked it, so I went by to check it also. So, but she will be contacting you about that to see where you wanna go with it.
Okay. If there's not anything else for David, we'll let him go. Alright?
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
Dave, thanks a lot, man.
Yes, sir.
Excuse, are you guys on the agenda? Where? I mean, I didn't see them.
They're not on there.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, I didn't.
Yeah.
We
Wanna
are,
make sure
but
that
we're
we,
not.
Mickey's here.
I wanted to make sure we hadn't dropped the ball and you sit there and
We
told.
kinda did.
I'll get him, David.
Okay,
Hey,
hopefully-
guys,
hopefully
Mickey
we'll
just
go
showed
to
up,
that.
so.
Only got
Got two beautiful people here from the Personnel Department, State of Alabama. They're gonna talk to us about 457B. That's tax deferred compensation. Alright,
Actually, this is the state of Alabama deferred comp plan. Y'all currently are offered RSA 1. State employees are offered 2 deferred comp plans. Legislation passed, which is actually the front of this, briefly goes over the legislation that was passed last year, now allowing all the cities to adopt the full state retirement package. It's free to the cities. All you'll have to do is join, or actually sign a joinder. The difference really between the two plans, both are 457B plans. We have 36 funds, RSA 1 has 2. You can transfer your money as much as you want between the funds. RSA 1 only lets you move your money once a year. The contribution limits are the same, and there's actually this right here. This explains what you currently have, which is just one of the state deferred comp plans. You have RSA 1, this is the state of Alabama 457B plan. A lot more investment options. We have a traditional and a Roth plan, so you can make pre-tax or after-tax contributions. It does grow tax deferred. We have a loan provision. While you're still working, all of the city employees can borrow from their account. Basically, y'all get to add a new retirement benefit for the city employees at no cost, and it's actually available to y'all, or y'all elected officials cannot participate in RSA 1, you can participate in this. So, I know most of y'all don't work for the city. You have outside jobs, you have 401ks and 457B plans, the contribution limits are separate. You can actually max out both of them. So, kinda gives you a leg up, whereas a lot of people don't really ever have that opportunity. That, and there's really no point in digging into what we can. I know if everybody in that lobby has to talk to y'all for 15 minutes tonight, y'all are gonna be here till 1 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, we'll be lucky if we only stay 15 minutes.
So, I'm not gonna take up a lot of y'all's time, but I'll tell you, the biggest benefit to the employees is one, they get one-on-one retirement planning. This is my territory, I live in Wilsonville, so I'm not far from here. My job is to meet with state employees or any city employees when cities adopt the plan and calculate their pension, show how much their pension is gonna pay in retirement, help them calculate their social security, and then show them what their income gap's gonna be, and then tell them what they need to be saving per paycheck in order to hit their retirement goals. So they get one-on-one retirement planning at no cost. The retirement analysis that we provide them with, or that we run for them, is something if you go to Merrill Lynch or Stern Agee, you gotta pay $200 to sit down with the CFP to do that. So it's free to them. We do luncheons, we do group meetings, more or less investment education. We do investment allocation classes. If they don't wanna manage their own accounts, or if any of y'all are interested and wanna participate, we can do it for them. We have Advised Assets Group, who's our partner company, that will create a custom portfolio, and they manage it. They only charge 45 basis points, which industry average is extremely cheap.
Yeah, that is cheap.
So, a lot more flexibility, very low fees, whereas RSA 1, they only offer 2 index funds, which we have 2 very similar funds, but we have 34 more. We have 5 asset classes, everything from international stocks, small cap, mid cap, and large cap stocks and bonds, and we have a true fixed fund. It is principal protected. Right now it's paying 1.95%, which isn't bad compared to where banks are at. With 457 plans, you do not have to be 59.5 to get your money out. As soon as you separate from service, you can take a distribution without penalty. So for y'all, if y'all do have, if you do wanna retire early, but you're only offered a 401k or all your money's tied up in an employer-sponsored plan, that you can't get your money out until 59 and a half, this can be your avenue towards, you know, putting something aside for early retirement.
So now, just to be clear, RSA one does not necessarily have to go away. This can
No.
be in addition.
Correct.
Okay.
And they can do, a lot of state employees do both. The money can be it's very easily transferable between the two plans with a plan transfer. We do them every day. So if somebody wants to roll their RSA one money over to us, that's fine. If they wanna roll back to RSA one, they can. Doesn't usually happen a whole lot. Another thing between us and RSA one, we can accept any qualified plan rollover. So if you have an old 401k or old IRAs, any employer sponsored plans, you can roll those into this, whereas RSA one will not accept anything except for 457B money. So you probably have some employees that have an old 401k or an old IRA
Yeah.
that they can now consolidate under one roof and pay much lower fees. The fees with this plan are negotiated with the state, so that's why they are extremely low. There are no load funds. You're paying just the expense ratio per fund. There's no front load, 1% and those CDSCs on the backside of it. So it's a very good plan.
So what you're telling me, Jared, is that this won't cost the city of Sylacauga anything to implement, is that?
Right.
Okay.
Just make it available.
That's it. You sign the joiner, you adopt the plan, we set up a payroll center, and we'll come out, work with the department heads, do groups, we can come out, do group meetings, do luncheon, just educate everybody on their options. RSA one has a very low participation rate, and it's, if you looked at this, you probably see why.
Yeah, sure.
If
Why
you-
would anybody have both?
Two options. The state RSA one was more or less the in-house plan. They're not SEC or FINRA regulated, which to me is kind of a
That's crazy.
right. It's kind of a joke. They did actually recently. They had to change. It was very misleading. They had what they called a fixed fund. Recently, they had to change that because everybody was negative in their fixed fund. It was a bond index, is what it is. The state offers to. Doesn't mean that they're always going to offer to. I'll leave it at that without going into detail.
Cities participate at the same level that state employees participate.
There you go. Now let me ask you, Mayor,
Same options.
Trish, as full-time employees of the city, do you think this is something that the employees would look favorably upon? I mean, is this worth diving into?
Yeah, I think it's a good option for the employees to have.
I mean, because
We
we're
met
not,
with them.
we're not here all the time.
Yeah.
Y'all are. I mean,
Anytime you give the employees an opportunity to put their money somewhere where they can
I agree. I
benefit
mean, that's
from
what
it,
logic
they
would
work
tell
for 'em,
me.
and the state allows it, so to me it makes
So-
sense.
What we need to do?
Sign that, and we get the payroll center set up.
Okay.
And then they'll meet with each, with
Right.
the department heads and then set it up with all the employees.
Right.
So do we'll need to take formal action on this. Guys, are y'all comfortable with looking at this on Wednesday? Huh? Okay. There you go.
Authorize the mayor.
Yeah, we'll just authorize Doug. Take care of that.
Okay. And after that, we'll work with the payroll. Couple options for them. They can
Yeah.
either set up an Excel sheet and mail a check, or we can get them on our system or PSC system. They can remit electronically.
There you go. And we wanna be invited to the luncheon.
That's fine. We can make that happen. Might have to come back and do a luncheon for y'all.
There you go.
Get y'all enrolled.
That's right.
Well,
All right, guys.
Thank
Thank
you all
y'all.
for your
Thank
time.
you.
Hopefully y'all get out of here and get some sleep at some point.
Yeah. Y'all be careful going home, guys.
Thank you.
Do we need to come back Wednesday? No. Okay.
Not unless y'all just wanna see them again.
Which is
As much
fine.
fun as it will be,
I
probably.
mean, yeah.
Since we're out of town. If we were in town, we would.
Right.
You drove all the way from
Garbage people said
Gadsden
they
just to
wouldn't
spend
take
5 minutes with us?
Don't get it.
I'm from the state, if anybody has any questions, he has my contact info, if you ever are curious about anything, I'm happy to help.
There are,
Okay.
I mean, they handle the fiduciary responsibility for the plan, and that's another thing, if y'all had Nationwide or somebody else, basically y'all are hands off with this, y'all don't have to do anything, which makes it a lot easier now, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
See you
you.
later.
everybody knows that we've had, well, I won't say problems, but we've had some issues. And I called Advance last week and, said some pretty strong things, I guess, and they met with us, Friday, and they have assured us that we're gonna get everything straightened out. And, talking with Denise today, she was excited that the phone didn't ring near as much today, so.
I'm glad too.
And these guys said they wanted to come tonight and answer any questions that anybody may have and to assure y'all that everything's gonna be a lot better, so. So we'll turn it over to, this is, Kenny Reese.
Yes, sir.
And Chris, what was your last name?
Chris Martin.
Chris Martin, and they're both new to this area, I think, as far as taking over taking over Silicaga with Advance, so we'll turn it over to them and let them start, and Leon Cleveland also came. I think Leon had maybe some issues that weren't resolved before, so we'll give Leon a chance to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Alright.
What issues have you resolved and when are they gonna be done?
When they're gonna be done, we are currently putting a plan of action together. We've assigned a supervisor for the city of Silicaga that'll be down, which will be Chris. I've formed a managerial team for my municipalities. I've come in from Florida to try and resolve some issues that just some small problematic areas, that we've had, but, we at Advanced Disposal, we know that, the type of service that we're supposed to provide, so we're here to try and, communicate better with the city and to see if we can't resolve these problems. Basically, we wanna try and, reestablish a relationship that we've had for a long time with you guys.
Well, your small problematic areas are big ones to us.
Yeah.
The last thing I wanna do is have a phone call 3 weeks in a row wondering why the garbage can lid hasn't been replaced. The can's still on the curb, they're in violation of ordinance because the can's on the curb, and they're afraid every day that they're gonna get fined just because they don't know.
I understand.
But to me, that's senseless, it's nonsense, you know, you have a contract with us, you do it. Apparently at the moment you get paid regardless, but going forward, I'd like to see us, have something in there where you don't get paid if you don't provide the service, cause it's a contract of services. So, you know, we have a contract renewal or a new contract bid coming open.
Sure.
And, what you do in the short-term near future, in my opinion, goes a long ways as to whether I consider you or not, I'm speaking for myself. So I would like to have this taken care of yesterday.
Sure. Well, unfortunately, I can't take care of it yesterday, but I can move forward and I can address it right now.
But you understand my point?
I understand clearly.
And I think one of the biggest issues has been communication. And today Denise has said that she's got return emails, they're letting her know as these things are resolved.
Yeah.
So that goes a long way. And like I said, it's been a whole lot
I'll give you a
better
small
today.
example, you can pass these around, but these are just something that we started working on. Like I said, you can already start to see the problem, or some of the issues being resolved. We're gonna work quickly through this.
I
can assure you.
jeans I'd like to replace, cause I've had my tail chewed out.
Yes, sir, well, I'm here to take those for you, honestly, that's why they brought me here.
No lids on them, garbage.
Well, we come in Saturday, and, we addressed that on Saturday. I had 2 crews in there on Saturday replacing lids. I've got a new load of containers that'll be here on Friday, and we'll be addressing these new lids, these new containers, and replacing these containers for you. We're gonna put it in with the city, working in with, Mrs. Denise, to try and get communication there, and get, containers on hand, and get matters addressed in the same day that they're brought up, cause that's our goal. Honestly, no misses, in my opinion, misses are unacceptable, period, especially when our trucks are in town. We're gonna take care of it the same day when we're here.
I will say, sure, there have been issues,
Yes, sir.
but I will say when I have called, and Chris, I think I've talked to you, I'm Rocky Lucas, by the way, and I will say, when I have called, you guys have done a pretty good job, because like us,
Right.
it's hard for you guys to know if somebody doesn't pick up the phone and call you.
Yes.
Just like we wouldn't know that somebody's garbage can was missed if they didn't call us. You guys don't know unless we call you. So I think that constant, that good communication, that line of communication, that open line of communication.
Yes.
Between, we're kind of the middleman between the customer, the citizen, and you guys. And I think that communication, and I will say, I've always been able to get in touch with someone, and those problems have been handled. So I would like to say thanks for that.
Well-
Now, going forward, I'd like to not have to pick up the phone as much maybe.
Sure,
But,
well,
you know,
honestly, that's our goal, is for you
That's
guys
right.
not to hear from your customers.
So I appreciate that open line of communication, I really do.
We're definitely gonna strengthen that bond.
Okay.
I will be down here daily, on a daily basis. I'll be down here in constant contact with Shannon and Denise.
Okay.
The side loader driver, we're gonna designate one as he's basically gonna be the Silicaga team leader, as you want,
Okay.
whatever you wanna call it.
Okay.
He will come in here. As far as missed stops, he will come in here and talk to Denise also before he leaves out of Silicaga, to make sure that there's nothing, just come in, or that we forgot, or was, ongoing problem, and fix that immediately.
Right.
But both of us will be in contact with Denise all day.
Sure.
So as soon as Denise sends an email, I get a copy of it. As soon as she sends it, I guess y'all get copied on it also. I will also get copied on that.
But he'll also respond back when, at the nature and the time it is taken care of.
Okay, great.
We want our goal at Advance is to solve it that day. We want that container changed out that day. We'd like to have it. Can I go guarantee you 100%? Probably not. But we're gonna do our best to get there. Sir?
Or at least the next day.
Yeah, we're gonna do our best, yeah. Right now, we're starting at the bottom, and we're gonna work our way up. And we're gonna try and get everything, we like to get to square one is what we like to get. We don't want any broken containers out there at all, so that's why we had 2 crews in here working all day on Saturday trying to get
Sure.
it resolved. Now, unfortunately, I'm at the mercy of one of my containers getting here on time. We ordered a load of carts to get here, and unfortunately be here in 4 or 5 days. That's what I'm being told, and we're gonna get them here as quick as we can.
What's the procedure for a citizen to report like a lid missing?
A lid missing, what would?
We need to call City Hall.
Yeah, they call
the mayor's office.
call
Okay.
my office.
They call Denise informs us.
Yeah, that's.
Or
that
Shannon.
works
I
well.
ask this because one of your predecessors came to a city council meeting last administration and said that they would be on a regular basis running the routes and identifying some of those. So when I moved into my new place, and got a can, it had no lid, and it still has no lid. Though one did come by and replace it one day, picked it up off the ground, set it on top of the container. Didn't stay there very long,
Right.
but you follow where I'm coming from.
And honestly, we're trying to educate our drivers to realize that you can, and try and take the time and put it on his route sheet.
Well, I can't,
And let us
it's
know if he
full
can
of
do
water
it, then
right
we
now,
can
and I
do-
can't dump it out. I
Maybe we
can't roll
we
it.
can get ahead of the customer calling in. If he'll address that on his route sheet, he comes in that night, we can review it, his problematic areas, and get those taken care of.
Chris,
Possibly and cut off the phone call altogether.
One of the problems I've had call in the mail is that when it didn't get picked up, and the patron finally got to talk to the driver.
Yes, sir.
Well, he didn't know the route last week. You know, it seemed like to me that you would have somebody go with these drivers till they learn that route. Whether
Yes,
it's
sir.
1 day, 2 days, 2 weeks.
Well, and that again is, I'll go back to communication. Sometimes we'll have a driver that's out or vacation, and someone will come in and fill his position. That's probably one of the areas that when it's gonna happen, it'll happen hopefully only in those. But we're gonna let Denise know if that driver has not been on that route, and let her know before, ahead of time, look, but let him know in that day, and he'll spend the extra time to go back and pick up. He's probably gonna miss, but we can still get it picked up that day. He's still in town before he leaves, and he's gonna check with Miss Denise before he leaves. So if we can get those addresses, we can get those picked up on the way out.
Good deal.
Is this a plan of action that you've used in other cities, or is this?
Have I? Yes.
You don't have any problems with this being completed?
Being completed, no.
So it sounds like a lot of work dependent upon a driver, and I know that's hit and miss sometimes depending on your driver, and I appreciate the plan of action. I just wonder if this is something that has worked.
Many times.
Okay.
And like I said, it won't just be the driver I'll be here to hold
Have
the
a very
driver
high
accountable.
success rate.
I will
High
be here.
success rate.
that'll be here in Silicaga,
Alright.
85% of the time.
Most of it's communication.
That's gonna mean a
Honest
lot,
to goodness, it's
with
just-
Chris being
it's-
here daily, almost. That's
It's,
gonna be-
we're not asking any more from our drivers other than paying attention to some of the broken carts, getting ahead of it on time. They have a tough job, what they do. Some of the inclines with the containers, sometimes that container, you know, I've been looking up in Florida, it's all flat over there, so the container stands up when he sets it up. Here, I can't imagine that container standing up after he sets it down that, with the claw on the side. So, we're trying to educate them a little bit better. I've got people that work in the mountains and so forth, so we're trying to educate them a little bit better about how we can go about it to be better.
Still
So
better than hanging on the back of a truck, which I saw when I was growing up.
Yes, sir, that's how I grew up. I built my own business doing that, and
We also,
I spent a lot of time on the back.
the drivers also have a cannot out list that we make them. So if they go by a house and their cart's not on the road, they will write that down and report it to our dispatch. So we can in turn report it to Denise before the customer calls. Now, you're gonna have issues where people forgot to put it out, they're gonna call in and say that they were missed. So this way, we can beat them
Been
too.
there, done that.
That would be good.
We're gonna
But
beat
still,
them
if it's
to
called
that.
in, that's gonna happen, but still, if it's called in, we can still go back and get it the same day. We're gonna do our best to try and
No.
resolve these problems.
Admittedly, I don't know whether they work, residential or commercial, but I know you have at least a handful of drivers that actually live here
Yes,
in
of course.
Silicaga and have worked this area
Right.
before, so if you have somebody out,
Yeah.
look around and see if maybe you have somebody a little more familiar with
You
Silicaga
bet.
available to.
That's, that's one thing that we've discussed, is to sit down and evaluate the people that we have running the cities to see if they're familiar with the cities or live in them. That's a given, we're working on that. And we've got 80,000 containers on the ground, so we got some work ahead of us, but everything's been going. I think the mayor, since, we spoke last week, we're starting to see progress. We're gonna continue to make progress, and we're gonna work hard to try and build a relationship back.
And none of us sitting at this table expect or think that perfection is, I know perfection is the goal. We know that perfection is not going to happen, but, you know, it just seems like in the past, you know, mediocrity has kind
Right.
of been the staple, and we want somewhere in between mediocrity and perfection.
Sure. You bet.
So, that's
We
kind of what we're
understand
looking
that.
for.
called
Yes,
good-
we
that's
do.
called good service.
That's right.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you pay us to do a job, we wanna do a job, we're supposed to do our job right. That comes down to it. And honestly, we wanna do our job right, these guys wanna do a good job, they don't like being fussed at, you know, and at the end of the day, having a long day like they have. And as managers, we're trying to do a better job to help them.
Leon, do you have something?
I sure do.
Okay, yes, sir.
Yeah, my name's Leon Cleveland.
Yes, sir, Mr. Leon.
I'm the director of the Housing Authority. We have 626 properties. Communication may be a problem with some of you, but it's not with me. I send Lisa May emails about every other week, who is our contact, I understand. I met with her right after she came aboard in around February. I've got about 12 or so emails in my file where I have sent to her. Started out working pretty good. Doug, you remember you asked me about it, and I said, working good. The biggest problem we have, I understand we all in a tough business. Advanced disposal, the city, chewing. I get mine all the time. I've got it a lot more lately than I used to. Now, last year, I believe it was, I believe it was Denise or one of the city people here, and I asked them to let me take care of the Drew Court properties, or my manager, because the people can't pull those big cans out if the wheels are off or if it's full of water and this kind of thing, or they won't try. And here I am, I've got garbage cans sitting behind the apartments, flies on them and stuff like this and everything, and that's not good. People complaining next door because of the odors, possums, and all this kind of stuff going in it. Okay? I met with Elisa, my manager and I, over at Drew Court. I mean, I don't know, she may have been our first day. It was early, February, March, somewhere along there. And we had a good conversation. I told her the plan that we had was advanced before the change up. okay? One, y'all had they had a guy here in town, I forget his name, I wanna say it's German, but I don't think that's it, but that was a contact, you could get a hold of him and you could get problems worked out, okay? Now, y'all apparently don't do any repair of the cans, because that was one of the things that they used to do, come by and do the repairs. But we have them, drop them off over at our office in Drew Court, typically 15 or so. We try to keep 15 all the time because we want our tenants to call us rather than call the city. Now, in the senior citizen, which is 220 units, they call the city. But they don't have hardly any broken. That's the thing I don't understand, is why they don't and we do. And even in Drew Court, there's a difference of the damage from one area to the other. Now, I've talked to drivers and things like that, and they tell me I don't have any control over how fast that thing goes down or anything like that. Slams, tears the wheels off, tears the lids off, you know. And I've talked with Lisa, the problem she said, and you said it a couple of minutes ago, was getting the carts. Yes. And I said, you need to get with your purchasing department and get them to get carts coming here on a regular basis, because you know you're going to have them tore up. I mean, I think you can look back at the records. I'm sure y'all keep records on how many you get tore up and everything, and set your goal. Now, I can always see other people's problems, okay? I'll tell you that right up front. I do that. But there again, it goes back to what Rocky was talking about, Billy and them. I mean, you can only stand so much chewing. And I've seen the service getting worse. And it's primarily because of not having cans. That's the story I get. We don't have the cans. We don't have the cans. And, you know, somebody needs to get with purchasing, in my opinion, and get the cans rolling in.
Yes, this has been resolved.
Yeah,
We've
they're-
got cans rolling.
I think they got that fixed.
Like I said,
Well,
we had a meeting last
I got
week.
I got an email just a day or two ago, and they didn't have.
Well, and today's probably the first day that we're really, these guys have really committed to getting all this
I
straightened
want you to
out.
look at this right here. This was a picture I took of the other advanced people, and they kept us cans, okay? I mean, 15 there, and I've got 6 right now in Drew Court that is ready to roll, and I've got somewhere between 15 and 20 that's tore all to pieces and things like this, you know, and it hadn't been but just a day or two that we had you know, communication with Lisa, and that's the story we get.
Yes, sir. Well, all I can tell you is.
Now listen, let me say this, and I'm gonna shut up and sit down. But it got so bad about a couple of months ago that I started including Denise Mitchell with my emails to Lisa, so that they would have the record and this kind of stuff, and try to help get the cans and things of this nature. But the guys, the drivers, they on the phone. That's one of the big problems I hear from tenants and people like that. They don't watch what they're doing.
Yes, sir.
Now, I would suggest this, that somebody follow them trucks every now and then and let them know that they're being watched.
Yes.
I would highly recommend that, because I think you'll see how reckless and everything they really are.
I agree.
I would think, Leon, along that line, you maybe tell them that you're gonna be watched, but don't tell them when you're gonna be watching.
Well, no, yeah, I mean, well, that's strictly up to them, but,
Yeah.
listen, I recognize y'all's problem, cause trust me, I've got the problems too. I'm the director of the public housing, and our clients are deteriorating, and
Easy.
I mean, everything is going south.
Well, these guys
Yeah.
have committed to us that they're gonna get it straightened out, so.
Okay, then
so
I
we're gonna-
I will gladly work with them in
Okay,
any way I can.
We'll definitely be in touch.
And try to work with them to, you know, that's the reason why we was taking and keeping the garbage cans, to try to help
Sure.
things. Cause I have a guy that every Wednesday, or every Wednesday, he takes to go around and check the cans at the apartments, or if he sees one that's damaged, then he'll bring it in, put a new one out there and this kind of thing. I used to take and stencil the apartment number on, because when an apartment becomes vacant, instead of emptying theirs, they'll get the can from the vacant apartment. And I know those numbers on there mean doodly squat to y'all.
But they're gonna,
Right.
they've said that they're gonna start using those numbers more
Okay.
now, so
Okay.
that's another thing that.
But I stenciled the number in on all of my cans.
Okay.
Well, that lasted about 2 months because they all got tore up and taken in. Then I had to re-stencil more. I couldn't keep up with it, you know, because it's a work thing, you know. But anyway, listen, I really am glad that we're having this conversation. I know that the city's glad of it, and I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
And I'll shut up.
Thank you, Leon.
All right, guys, well, we certainly appreciate y'all
Yes, sir.
coming, and we appreciate you wanting to fix the
You
problem.
know, we're gonna
So,
work hard at
Good.
it. That's what I promise you.
All right,
All right.
good deal. Everybody
Thank
got
y'all.
one of Chris's
Yes, sir.
cards, so, don't wear them out too much.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Leon.
Leon?
I'm gonna put it right here, you know, getting Mr. Scott or whoever you want to.
We got a couple more
Do what?
chairs around here too. They don't roll. I push one over there.
I'll-
There you go. We got 3 right there.
Okay, that'll be fine.
We got 3 chairs down there. Well, we've got Braxton and Leon Carpenter and Scott Carpenter. Okay. Jot that down real quick. And guys, I'm sure you remember that Scott, at our last council meeting, Scott, you know, came to the podium and kind of, you know, expressed his concerns as it pertains to the sale of produce in the city. And currently we have an ordinance that restricts folks from selling basically off the bed of a pickup truck or something like that. We have an ordinance that restricts that. These guys are wanting to see, you know, maybe what we could do to help them. Now, I will say this, the way our ordinance is written, and I think you should all have a copy of it, but the way our ordinance is written, we're not going to have to change the ordinance. The ordinance allows us to give permission to these folks on a case-by-case basis if they want to sell, you know, produce. Now, with that being said, you guys will not be able to sell while the farmer's market's going on. I'm sure you already know that. While the farmer's market down here is going on Friday. Well, not all year round, but we wouldn't be able to, you know, park in a parking spot down here on Broadway and sell as folks walk down, you know, down the sidewalk. You know, we couldn't take up parking spots. What are some other restrictions in there, Joe? You're looking at it right now. But anyway, you know, there's some things.
Grocery store parking lot.
There you go. Well, I mean,
Common sense stuff.
yeah, that's right.
It doesn't
That's
have restrictions on
that's
it.
right. So, you know, that's kind of where we are. So, I guess our thing, I guess what we need to hear from you guys is, you know, kind of what you have in mind. What do you guys have planned?
Scott, you want to address that?
Well, I mean, it's
Or you don't want
just,
to?
I'd say more of, just dealing with the public. If you stop at a gas station, you sitting there pumping gas in your truck, and lady comes up, wants to buy a basket of peaches, to carry home with her. You know, you'd hate to have to say, well, all right, let's drive down the road a mile, and I can sell them to you there, versus, okay, she's pumping her gas, I'm pumping mine, we, you know, change of hands right there at the pumps, you know what I mean? It happens, you know, being able to do stuff like that, if somebody, you ride down the road, somebody's on their porch, you know, and kinda gives you a little wave, you know, back up, and, you know,
Like the ice cream
how you
truck,
doing today,
but with
whatever,
peaches,
you know,
squash.
same
Right.
principles, you know. And, you know, it opens the doors for a lot of people that, whether it's kids, you know, you get off work as busy as life is now. You know, you pull up at the gas station, you're sitting there, and you ain't done anything with your youngins in a while, and there's a big old watermelon, next thing you know, you carry it home, and they have at it, make a mess, and have a seed spitting
There
contest,
you
whatever, but it's a memory that sticks in their life for a lifetime, you know what I mean? It happened just for the moment, you're at the gas pumps, you don't think nothing about it, you know? It's stuff like that, just really interacting with the public, you know? I understand you can't sit out in front of Piggly Wiggly selling produce, because that's how they make their living, but, you know, you sit at a gas station, or, you know, something like that, you're not, you know, you're
Yeah.
not taking business from them, you know,
Right.
it's stuff like that's what
And
we
y'all
talk
get,
about.
and y'all get the permission of the property owner before you go there, so I mean, you know, and that's not for us, you know, we're not getting into that, but, I mean, y'all do that, and y'all know where you can be and where you can't be, and like I said, just as long as it doesn't, you know, there have been some issues in the past, where there were, you know, 3 or 4 trucks parked on Broadway out here in parking spots, and just, you know, basically just sitting there all day. And that was where they sold produce, and you know, we can't do that.
Right.
We're not asking it to obey
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
What exactly are you asking? What do you want to do?
We're asking to sell produce off of a truck at various locations, and they even go door to door, and I don't mean go door to door, knock on doors probably, but if you're driving through a neighborhood and people are on the porch or something.
Like I said, like the ice cream truck.
There
Yeah,
are places
they wave
where
you
you have
down.
regular customers.
Yes, we've got regular customers that we go to, and that's
And this-
basically what we do.
This is produce that y'all grow in your,
Some of it we
Some of it
grow,
we
some of
do,
it we
yes,
don't. True. Probably the majority of it we grow, but some of it we do not grow.
Guys, you know, I would probably, you know, as far as it goes, you know, driving up and down streets, I'm all about that. I would probably prefer that you didn't knock on doors and go door to door unless you have a, you know, a relationship with,
Right.
you know,
Well,
somebody.
That ain't gonna happen, I can
you
tell you
know,
that right now,
so-
life's too short to be.
Yeah, that's
No, we're
right.
not gonna- we're not gonna get people out
of bed.
Nobody
Yeah.
home, you wasting, you know.
Yeah, but I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't want you to be that
No.
that book salesperson from Estonia that comes around about once a year. So,
We've got other ways
because
to make
we'll
it.
get calls about that, you
Oh,
know
yeah.
we will. So with that being said, we'll have to take some formal action. We've got a council meeting on Wednesday morning. We'll have to take some formal action, basically just granting you permission. Now, what I do need, are all three of you asking permission, because we'll have to designate all 3 names. Are all 3 of you gonna be out there in separate vehicles selling, or how do you plan on doing this?
That is a possibility.
Well, then, if that's a possibility, then I would suggest
You
that.
have a
Business license?
company name?
Oh, yeah.
You have a business license?
Sure.
if I may say this,
individual.
I've been selling off a truck for 30 or 40 or 50 years. And so far, I've never caused a fender bender. I know better than to hold up traffic or sell on Broadway. And I might cause one tomorrow, but so far I have not. And I was looking to see, I have my license here, I was looking to see how it's written out.
We would identify as the business.
Non-store retail, direct selling. Is there a name?
Is that made out to you?
I don't have my.
Okay.
Yes, sir, it is.
Made
So
up.
Now,
Each individual would need a business license now, just as long as we understand. And I think that goes without
That's-
saying. I think
that's
y'all
what
know
we need.
full well
Right.
that, you know, Leon would need one, you know, Scott would need one, you know, so on and so forth. So,
Even if they have a company name?
if they have a company name, then
each agent. still
each
has to be
agent,
licensed.
yeah, that's right. So, you know, if you've got a company name, if it's Joe's Produce, and you've got 5 employees, then those agents would need to be named in that business license. So,
Would need to be named, or they would need an individual license.
yeah,
So if you got 5 employees, you need 5 licenses.
correct, yeah, that's right.
if they're gonna be driving separate.
Cause there's
trucks.
you're at different
Yeah.
sites,
I
you're
got
not
you.
at one, you're not at a store,
I understand.
per se. Okay, well, guys, what we'll need to do is, if we decide to, we'll put this on the agenda for Wednesday. I mean, guys, do we have any problems, any questions for them?
I did have one thing I wanted to bring up,
Yeah.
just to clarify it. Generally speaking, the farmer's market goes from school out to school starting, but school starting has been a moving target the last couple of years and hasn't always been decided by the time the season starts. We're scheduled to stop on the 15th, which is 2 Fridays. Just wanted to make sure you, the general time frame is Memorial Day to Labor Day, but once school starts, ours falls off considerably. And
Well, we have no intentions of being nowhere selling when that farmer's market right there is going on.
7:30 to 1.
Our minds are not too good, so. At our age, you get
I've known you,
forgetful.
I've known you a couple of years.
See, the only thing
Went
with
too
that,
much of that
and I'm
gas
sure,
when it was working.
and I'm sure you know that, but there are limitations on that. There's an opportunity, if we've got individuals selling produce at the same time that farmer's market's going on, we can get that jerked away, and we don't wanna do
We
that.
have no intention.
Okay.
No problem with that.
Compete with that farmer's market, none at all.
Well, guys, I'll go ahead and say that, I'm actually in favor of what you do. I don't know how these guys stand. It's something that we'll look at on Wednesday morning. I think we can probably get this on the agenda for Wednesday morning.
Okay.
And, we'll take action, whether to give the 3 of you permission or not. So, we'll decide on Wednesday morning, and, with that being said, I mean, you have anything for us?
We thank y'all for having us in.
Oh, yes,
We
sir.
know you're
Yes, sir.
busy, you're doing a good job,
Well,
and we
thank you.
appreciate anything you can do to help us.
Yes, sir.
I like to sell watermelons, but I don't like being in jail. I've done both.
I hear ya.
You're not for selling watermelons without a license.
That's right.
Pretty close. I do
Maybe for
have.
some of the stunts we pull.
Yeah. I do have one question before
Yeah,
we go,
sure.
and I appreciate y'all taking the time.
Yeah.
Is this something that we're gonna do every year? How long is this permission good for?
Well,
I mean,
I
so-
think
so y'all say-
as you get your business license, you'll need to probably come back up here, and ask us for permission again. I hate to do that, but I think that's probably gonna be the best way
We don't mind.
okay, and the easiest way to do it, This didn't take long,
No.
5 minutes a year, I think
Yeah.
is good
That's
to go.
Well, we appreciate it.
Okay,
y'all.
guys,
Thank you very
y'all have a
much.
good one.
Y'all be careful.
See y'all around.
See y'all.
All righty,
See y'all.
bye-bye. Tom, you wanna go get, Jim?
No, I told you. This is the next section.
They gotta get the same license that people selling, but then they move to Albion.
No, he said the other
They
day.
were back across.
Oh, okay,
the street.
okay.
that you needed this.
Okay.
That was Albies.
Do we know who they are?
Hey, guys, how are you?
Tired.
I hear you. Y'all come on in, grab a chair. We've got some more chairs here in this closet.
Yeah,
We got 3 back here already set up if we need them. Well, you want me to sit behind me this time. Bet ya.
I wanted to take the opportunity to introduce Jim Tucker. He's a retired military and professional aviator, probably best known as a hero from his days as a captain for FedEx. I've got some copies of an article that talk about that, but that's not why he's here. Just kind of makes him a celebrity, and I think makes him a little uneasy now, but it is something that's a part of who he is. But I asked him here today because he's the chairman of the Airport Authority in Headland, Alabama. If you're not familiar, that's a small community in Henry County down below Dothan, and it's a town of about 4,600 people. They have an airport comparable in size to ours, in spite of the fact that they're considerably smaller than Sylacauga. And I wanted him to speak to us about things such as the pros and cons of having an authority as opposed to an advisory board, and his authority's role, and things like the growth of the airport, growth in the town, the economy, and industrial community. And I wanted to point out that he's quite familiar with our airport and its operation, having been here a number of times. I know he's longtime friend with Mr. Lett behind you. Worked a lot on airplanes together. So, Jim?
Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for allowing me to come up here, and I appreciate the invitation to come up. Originally I'm from Miami Springs, Florida, which is 2 blocks from Eastern Airlines hangar area. So I grew up around airplanes. I was ruined, before I even started. So, and I went to school at Mont Valley, and finished up there, went in the Navy, and the rest is history. I was a fighter pilot instructor in Pensacola, and left. And then after the little debacle at FedEx, and I was not able to return to professional flying because I have to take medicine, which I can't hold a first class medical like I used to. But I still fly. I can fly my private planes. And to be honest with you, at this point in my life, it's a lot more fun. I can say, gee, I think I want to go over here and land, and I don't have to worry about dragging a DC-10 someplace or a 777. So anyway, life is good. I'm an associate pastor now for the Lutheran Church and Trinity Lutheran Church, Missouri Synod. So I won't lie to you. I'm just here to give you information that you can take at your leisure. But I got into this airport development quite by happenstance. I had a father-in-law who was the director of the Henry County Industrial Development Board, and he realized immediately that they needed to have an airport authority because some of the many things that they were being shortchanged on, and I'll talk to you a little bit about that. But I fell into this, quite by happenstance. And I can tell you this much right now, it is, and I told Tom earlier, it is so much easier to fly into a field than it is to develop one. It is really an involved, very involved process to go ahead and do this type of thing. So we had just decided to go ahead, Headland decided to go ahead and convene an airport authority. We had a very good working relationship with the mayor's office. And by code, by Alabama code, there's quite a bit of control there that the mayor has because he is the individual who essentially okays who is going to be on the board. The positions are normally for 6 years. So it is an autonomous group, but it works in concert with the city and also with the Industrial Development Board as well, because we've done a lot down there. Our airport is comparable in size, just over 300 acres. We have row crops on that, but most of our income that we generated is from hangars, but also from the rents of buildings that we have there. And we've got quite a few concerns down there. We've got an aerial applicator on the field. We've got guys who are doing quite a bit of production on lights. And most of these fluorescent lights you see, yours are different because it looks like they're silver, but most of the fluorescent lights that you see in the store, they've been powder coated with white paint, and that's what they do there. And the trucking that comes in and out of there, and with that authority, we did things like, and I don't know if you've done this at your field, but we have electric, of course, and you do too, and you've got water, I'm sure, but we also went ahead and got sewer. And we got gas out there because those gas furnaces, they have to be fired, to do this. Now, one of the biggest advantages of having an authority is you're going to have a dedicated group of individuals, and it helps. It helps when you've got somebody with an aeronautical background. We've got about 2 or 3 pilots on the board. One of our board members is Pete Cruz, and he is also our manager. It's a paid position. Our bookkeeper is a paid position. Pete's a great businessman. He spent most of his time in the mortgage industry, and he's a very entrepreneurial type of guy, so he's a quick study. It took him about 3 months working with me to go ahead and get him up to speed. But the other members on the board, they fly as well, most of them do, and those others have got great gifts and talents that we can plug them into different deals. Sometimes when these grants become available, you have to jump on them like right now. So you've got dedicated people that can go ahead and do that, and that's a away from the city, and the city absolutely loves it from the standpoint, they don't have to worry about it. They are the sponsor, okay? When grants come, they go right into the coffers of the city. What we ask them to do is go ahead and put them in an interest-bearing account that is separate so we don't commingle funds. And then, of course, you can see, you know, how the money's being paid out. And of course, every time we've completed a project, they go back and audit it, and it's been a slam dunk. You know, it's kind of like, okay, this is done, it's completed, it's out. The wonderful thing about having an airport authority, the feds like it for numerous reasons. One is, how many know what NIPIAS program is? It's an acronym that we have. It's MPIAS, which stands for the National Plan of Integrated Airport Systems, NIPIAS, okay? It is extremely important that you have an authority that you can plug into that system, because what you're also gonna get with that, every year you'll have entitlement money of $150,000 that you can depend on. With that money, you can take that money, you can roll it, you don't have to use it, you know, it's the type of thing that you can go ahead and amass that. And sometimes what you'll find, say after 3 years, $450,000, just call it $500,000, you'll also find a grant that you can pair that with. And then of course the state will jump in, normally with a 5% co-payment. And oftentimes the locale, the city, of course, Silicaga would be required to go ahead and put up 5% to go ahead and do that. This is money that's just, it's just out there laying out there. And if you don't have an authority, someone can pick up the phone and call me and say, hey, we're getting ready for a pre-planning. Like right now, we're in the planning stage to go ahead and put a parallel taxiway in, just like you have out here as well. And the other reason they like authorities is from the standpoint that you have grant, basically assurances, because they're gonna give you this money, all right? So it's kind of like if they expect you to comport yourself in such a way that airport is gonna be making money. They want the return on the investment. They don't wanna dole the money out and have you take it and have the improvements made. And then of course, you break grant assurances. Maybe you have somebody that's not an aeronautical enterprise that's out there on the field. And you know, if it requires transportation of getting in and out, that's great, because you can go over to Decatur, Alabama, and see what they've got in there with the industry that they have as well. And furthermore, when you talk about airport development, okay, you're really talking about industrial development at its finest core, and there's no place else to get that type of money. If you grow your airport, you will grow the industries that come in. Anybody, and I understand you're looking for, correct me if I'm wrong, manufacturing, you'd like to go ahead. I guarantee you, the first thing a multinational company, like what we've had in Dothan recently, with the Chinese, all right, the first thing they wanna know, all right, where's your airport, and what's happening to it, you know? Is it stagnant? Is it, you know, steady state that's going down? Because if you're standing still, you're backing up. You really are. So they wanna see that. They wanna be able to get in, they wanna be able to get out. Now, you've got good approaches out here, field's in great shape, but it's not as good a shape as Headlands, you know, right now. We've really been on the, you know, it takes money, you know, to run an airport. Let me give you just an example of, like, the city was cutting our grass out here, okay? It wasn't working out too well, and finally, I guess, about a year and a half ago, one of the guys out there with a bush hog hit one of our PAPI lights out there. PAPI is Precision Approach Path Indicator. That was about a $5,000 screw up right then and there, okay? And the tractor driver jumped off of the tractor and went over there and grabbed the light and tried to set it back up, you know, so it skewed off over the side. I mean, this is a precision instrument, you know. I couldn't believe it. So what we did is we went to the city and we said, thanks, but no thanks. And we found local farmers out there who would actually come out there, and they were insured and bonded, and they would come out there and fertilize the grass on that field out there, that bahia grass, and let it grow just as, you know, fast as they possibly could. Then they come out there and they cut it and they roll it for hay, and it doesn't cost us a thing. And plus, you know, we've walked them around and showed them where all the hot spots are. Matter of fact, we've got a mower pretty much like Ray's got down there, one of the smaller, you know, zero turn. That's what we use out there to go ahead and get around their lights and everything else, and then we tell them, go ahead and mow the rest, you don't have to worry about it. And we have a grass strip as well. And matter of fact, the reason I got into this, they were gonna go ahead and close that grass strip. They don't make grass strips anymore, you know. They're phenomenal, you know, things. And so you got a group of dedicated professionals who, by the way, don't get paid. You know, I've told the mayor on you know, a couple of instances, you know, you couldn't afford to pay us what we're doing out here. Now, the remarkable thing about all this is that you guys are very, very close to Birmingham. And you could have an awful lot of overflow out here, and also an awful lot of industry as well, because Birmingham is getting to the point, and I've flown into Birmingham quite a bit in heavy jets. Of course, UPS and the guys that really busted it out here not too long ago on a non-precision approach, killed both of them out there. Came in too fast, too high, totally pilot error, you know, pranged it and killed both of them. But even closer fields like, for instance, Alabaster. Well, that's a good field, but gosh, look at the traffic you got out there, both traffic and ground traffic. You know, the highway goes, you know, right by there, and it's kind of congested. There's no place for them to really grow. In your situation, where you've got Highway 280 out there, and it doesn't really conflict with anything as far as pattern or anything else. You've got rail out there as well, close by, and I can hear the cars out there banging around the whole time. You guys are in a great situation, but it could be better if you have an airport authority out there that works in concert with you. You guys can work together and drive this thing, you know, or you can maintain the status quo at this point, and it might not be as what you're thinking about, because the state sometimes doesn't care to go with that as well, because, you know, any money that comes in goes to the state first. All right, so if you've got people who are trying to play this game, and in a way it's not a game, it's just the way business is done with the airports out there. So the best thing that I could do is try to maximize the efforts that we had, and it took a while. You know, we don't take anything from the city. We're self-sufficient. Now, the city helped us get to that point, and the Industrial Development Board were the guys who said, you know, we need you guys out here to do this type of thing, and they were absolutely correct. So they were clear thinkers, and they were thinking ahead, because it takes time. You're not going to see the results that you really want. It's going to take a couple of 3 years, you know, just to get into the system to start getting, you know, the grants that you want. But then as things start to roll, and it doesn't matter which engineering firm you work with, you know, they can tell you, I mean, they're great sources of information on how to go ahead and work things out. But, you know, I think you're hamstringing yourself, and I'm here, by the way, I come here in peace, all right? I come here in peace. I really do. But you can hamstring yourself from the standpoint that all these different opportunities could just go by the wayside. Now, I know that one of my airport manager called me today, and he said, an individual, nice guy, name is Sid. Is he here tonight, Sid?
No.
No, okay. Sid called and said that he specifically didn't want to entertain the thought of having an airport authority, because an airport authority can condemn property. We're talking about eminent domain, all right? He indicated, and I don't know Sid, I don't know where his property is, but he said he had property that was adjacent to or close to, and he was afraid. You know, first of all, well, his fears are completely and totally unfounded. Now, if he doesn't want to vote for the authority, you know, that's his business. But
he doesn't get a vote.
Yeah, yeah. So. Well, you know, or he can influence others. Whatever it is that whatever it is. But the point is this: you can't do that. Eminent domain does not work that way. First of all, before you can even go through step one, you have to take this to the FAA. You have to show intent and why that you need this particular piece of property. Number one, you got to pass that. That's a pretty high hurdle to get over, because, you know, the FAA has been sued very well, you know, and people have collected. And of course, Judge, where are you? You know, he'll be the first to tell you, it's not the judgment that kills you, it's the litigation, for crying out loud. You can get wrapped up on this stuff for years. You want to buy a lawsuit? Go ahead, see what happens, you know. It's not the good thing to do. Eminent domain does not make good neighbors. Second of all, if you're going to try and pick up a piece of property like that, it has to be appraised at fair market value, and then you've got to have the money to pay for it. So it's not like you go out there and say, well, I have the powers to condemn property and take it over. You know, we have a home right off the end of our approach to runway 27 who has 2 enormous pecan trees. And we have a published instrument approach going to their runway. And the FAA has come to us and they said, you know what? Those trees are not in the clear zone. If a guy goes a little bit low on approach, and by the way, these trees have killed people before going in the opposite direction. They said, you know, if we're gonna have to ask you, if you cannot get those trees removed, then we're gonna have to raise your minimums at night or say that this approach cannot be used at night or in IFR, you know, conditions. And we paid a lot of money to get that approach, you know, but at the same time, you know, most of us realize, you know, we're all citizens, you know, we're citizens, and we recognize the importance of private property. Any government entity that goes out and tramples over the rights of people, private property, I gotta tell you, that's called tyranny. That's what it's called. And the only abuses that I have seen lately of this type of stuff, a big case in Massachusetts where a group of governing body, a city council, decided they wanted a particular piece of property that was waterfront. People's homes had been there for years. And they tossed them out with eminent domain and said they were gonna build a revenue producing area there, and to this day, there's nothing there. Another one was in California, just recently, and which airport they're trying to close out there? Was it
Sacramento.
And I think it was Santa Monica as well.
Santa Monica, excuse me.
Santa Monica. All right, a vibrant field out there with all sorts of traffic, but the people, the commissioners, didn't want jet traffic in there, even though they had a tremendous noise abatement procedure. Fortunately, AOPA, you got a hat back on here that Ray had, the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association, went in there and filed a friend of the court, you know, briefing, and they're gonna actually let this go to a vote for the people. They're gonna keep that airport open out there. So what we never see airports trying to take over other people's property, but we see many, many times people who move out around airports and they try to shut the airport down. And lastly, you know, you gotta remember, you know, you got almost a mile of runway out there. Okay, a mile of runway. You pave a road that's a mile long, how far can you go? 1 mile. You pave a runway and you can go anywhere in the world. You know, so you've got light flight out there, you got all these things happening. You guys are positioned to do some wonderful things for general aviation, and you could capitalize on this. A high tide floats all boats. You guys go out there and get this money, build this airport, everything else fall into place. And especially when it comes down to capturing if you wanna be on the A list, if you wanna be on the short list for industry, and you've got everything that you need out here, the people are gonna ask, first thing the executives are gonna ask for, do they have an airport? Do they have an airport? That's why you need an airport. So, and I'd be more than willing. I'm sorry if I've been too verbose.
No.
But I waited a while to get in here, but, and I drove a long way to get up here, and it just as a, you know, as a favor to you, Tom, and to the rest of you. And, any questions that you'd like to, you know, that I can entertain, and if I don't know, I'll find out, but or what are some of the concerns that you might have for having an airport authority?
Well, I talked to Pete today as well.
Okay.
And,
Pete Cruz,
the airport manager in Headland.
Right.
And he explained to me in some detail, I didn't wanna take up a lot of his time, so, I was pretty, you know, to the point. But
Right.
he explained in some detail how the airport authority actually funds itself. And the city, he said, you know, the city, you know, I think he said $4,500
right.
a year.
Right.
Plus any grant matching, you know, any grant funds, they were gonna, you know, they were 5% most of the time.
And you know, right now, let me just interrupt you, that the state said this particular past year, they said, we're not gonna be able to fund, we're not gonna be able to 5%, we're gonna do it ourselves. That took us a while to get there. It took us about 10, 12 years to get to this point where we're starting to really, we refinanced hangars and everything else. We had stuff with USDA. Oh God, don't ever take a loan with the USDA, because you have to have a reserve. You have to have what is called a reserve account that you have, and it accrues and accrues and accrues. It's like private mortgage insurance.
Yeah,
It's
right.
like, dudes, we've been making the payment. What is the problem here? There's not an empty hangar anywhere in the world, I assure you. So we basically can those guys, and then all this working capital is there. So now we're going, what are we going to do? We're being very careful and very cautious and proceeding, at the same time. But yeah, there you go. So what else did Pete say?
Well, I guess my question,
Yeah.
and I just want to confirm, and like I said, I didn't want to take up a lot of his time. So
Hey, I'm here, man.
yeah, he basically told me that the city doesn't fund the airport authority.
They don't.
My question number one to you
Mhm.
is, where do you get funding?
Okay.
With the exception of grants.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Primarily three sources.
Okay.
Okay. Rental from property that we have. Okay.
Me-
That could be rental for. I think we make over $11,000 a year just on the crops out there. We rent the land out there for either. We're basically peanuts or cotton out there, and they rotate those back and forth. All right. The other is the different buildings that we have out there. That's all rental income that we have as well. We like to own the buildings, and there's a reason for that. If you own the buildings, you have control from the standpoint that if someone wants to go ahead and jump out and put another industry in there that may or may not be a good fit, you've got control because you've got the building. Now, someone decides they want to go ahead and exit, and leave the airport on the lease. And by the way, the FAA calls a long-term lease 20 years, okay? Because we want people to stay. We don't want to, we give people long-term leases, and normally they step up, they graduate as time goes on. So rental of buildings out there as well. And then the other is T hangars that we have. We have over 40 T hangars out there, and they rent for less than yours. They rent for, of course, you got bifold doors and some of the latest ones. You got some very nice hangars. I think ours go for $185 a month. To be honest with you, and we're not trying to be mercenary by any stretch of the imagination, but if we raised them to $200, nothing would happen. There'd be a lot of saber rattling. But I mean, I don't want to do that. I got two of them out there myself. but if you have, there is a dearth of T hangars. They're not available. Matter of fact, T hangars are so expensive in Memphis, Tennessee, that most guys just go ahead and say, "I'll paint the airplane every 10 years. I'll just put a little bit aside and paint the airplane," because T hangars can go from $450 to $600 for a T hanger. Same thing in South Florida. Same thing in California, except in California, most of the T hangars out there have a 15-year waiting list. So these are awesome pieces of revenue income if you build those hangars. And of course, we have very stringent rules on those hangars, because for every group of 10 T hangars, you're talking about a $400,000 investment. So we got 4 of them out there. You got $1.6 million out there, and we make the guys take care of what's going on. Recent article out here, and I think it was Wall Street Journal Online, talking about the fact that they were going around, the FAA's going around and look at some of these hangars and stuff. Some of them were actually built with grant money, and they're finding people parking cars in there and boats and tractors and everything else. That doesn't happen. We want people to come in there and fly. So, and the aircraft in our hangars have to be airworthy, which means they have to be annualed every year. We make our guys copy their logbook sign-off. Like when Ray finishes an annual of my airplane, first thing I do is I go back and burn a copy, shoot it in a PDF format to Pete. I have to have insurance, and I have to have liability insurance for my aircraft. I also have to, the aircraft has to be airworthy. Okay.
You got to show proof of all that when you rent a hangar.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, absolutely.
You have to prove that they do the annual every year to make sure.
Yes, that logbook sign off, and we've got a list, and we give them 90 days. You know, it's not like, you know, as soon as the airplane, you know, goes out of annual, because for instance, this airplane that I just annualed with Ray, I flew up, I had to get a ferry permit, because it was like 2 months late. I was into my third month of grace period when I flew it up here, because things happen, you know, weather, I mean, life happens, you know, so you can't always go ahead and do this stuff. So we work with our tenants as well on that, and the tenants like that, you know, so we don't have hangar queens. You know what a hangar queen is? That's an airplane that's been pushed in a hangar and never flies again, okay? It's just in there. We don't want that, because there's so many people out there who desire, you know, hangar space, and so the guys who get to fly airplanes and wanna keep them up and they're airworthy, those are the guys we go to.
How long have you been in authority?
Good question. I started in 1998, and I went right to chairman, believe that. I mean, it's like, whoa, you know, so I was covered up. I got a lot of information going to the Aviation Council of Alabama. I worked a tremendous amount of time with our Barge Wagner Sunder and Cannon, who I think are the same people that you use out here. And then of course, with my background in aviation, it was a good fit, just all came together. I stepped down as chairman because I was doing so much church work. But I picked it up again in 2012, so I'm chairman again in 2012. And the weird thing about this, I was telling Tommy, our board is so tight and so good and interacts so well with everybody else, even and especially we have Chamber of Commerce. You know, anytime there's a ribbon cutting or something else of that nature, I mean, we just work with all these different people and the HIDB, the Headland Industrial Development Board, and it's fun. You know, we've got dedicated guys out here who are doing this stuff, and everybody's kind of checking six, making sure that everything's okay. So now it's a pleasure, you know, because there is a lot of stuff that goes on, but you know, you've got to have people who know what to do and when to do it. There's a lot of like 50-50 grant money out there, you know, and sometimes it's available for only a short period of time. You've got to have a plan on the table. If you have an airport layout plan, an ALP, and I'm sure you have one here, that's kind of like your guide. You know, you can pick up an ALP and put it on the board up there and explain to everybody, okay, look, this is where we started, and look at these hangars over here that, you know, that we built, and over here where it's got hashed in for hangars. Well, we actually have hangars there now, you know, new taxiways, this, that, and the other, and you can actually look at that ALP, and it's kind of neat, just kind of see, you know, where you're going next. Now, as far as eminent domain goes, we needed some land for an approach segment, but it was tied up in an estate and there was no one on the property. And so basically, we approached these people. We didn't have to use eminent domain. We told them what our problem was. We needed that particular piece of property, you know, to complete an approach into runway 09. We explained it. And they said, okay. It was appraised. And at the time, the city picked it up and we deeded it to the airport. Airport property, you know, no one else can own airport property except basically the city, who will be your sponsor. Silicaga will own that airport. And so you don't have to worry about somebody coming in there and buying up property. And sometimes if a building is built, it might just be a ground rent, you know, type of situation. But we try to make sure that we own the buildings out there. It just solves a lot of problems. So that's the quick and dirty on that.
Yeah.
So rentals, you know, land rental for crops, okay. And same thing for guys like crop dusters, guys been out there in the field 10 or 15 years. And same thing for all our buildings as well. Good revenue source on buildings where people come out there and rent those buildings and go ahead and have their industries out there. So we've got one guy out there, Performance Design. They make everything from gun parts to surgical instruments, you know, that doctors use. I'm amazed. I'm just absolutely amazed. Pretty high-tech stuff.
How long did it take you to become a self-sufficient after you became an authority?
It took us, we took over here, I guess it rolled from 1998 till probably, I would want to say, 2008, 10 years, we really started to roll. It took us about 10 years to get up on the steps. Yeah, it did, and it required the assistance of the city, but we always knew, and they trusted us. And the other thing was too, how many here, I don't wanna put anybody in the spot, but I assume most of you have been to the airport.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, right, okay. We did a lot to go ahead and take, our officials, our elected officials out there to the property and explain what this is all about, and showed them, our ALP and what we would do with it. We had a lot of community, events out there as well, for people to come out and see the airport. And the other thing was, we also, really asked our local officials to go to other cities close by. I mean, like you guys could pick up if you wanted to, and go over to Alabaster and see what's going on over there. Alexander, the city, the same thing. You're in close proximity to some airports that are really up on the step and starting to move. You could just kind of look around and see. You can kind of tell when you see airports starting to build, you know that you've got an active authority there who is energized and working the best they can. It's a two-way street. And when you pull the city and the Industrial Development Board into it, it's a three-way street. It really is. But when people realize that things are gonna get better, I mean, where else can you get that kind of money, guys? Especially if it has to do with an airport overlay, meaning they come in and redo your runways, they restripe them. I mean, it runs into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, for some of these projects. And then when you've got that, and of course Ray has maintenance out there, Ray has jet fuel out there. I mean, every time I'm out there, a corporate jet is touching down out there. It could be a Citation, could be a Fokker, You've got Life Flight out there, which I think is a real feather in your cap, Why do you think they put Life Flight in Silicaca? Because you don't have the traffic concerns, both air traffic, to safely get someplace and get them, to a hospital. So these ancillary places on the outside out there is what you need to work into the Birmingham, situation. So the deal is, you're so well positioned, to really capture some of this stuff that, if, I don't want to tell you that if you build it, they will come, but I can tell you this, if you don't build it, they'll never come, they'll never come.
How many full-time people, you said you had one full-time person that
Works
for the authority?
Our full-time, he is also a board member, his name is Pete Cruz. And Pete, God, what a great fit. He's full-time. It took him about really 3 or 4 months for me to just kind of shepherd him around, because this is like, whoa, what is this, Thankfully, he was a pilot, he's a commercial balloon pilot as well. And so he's pretty good guy, and we have a paid bookkeeper out there who's excellent, and but the rest of us are volunteer. We don't take a thing. We do this as a civic community obligation. We ought to be doing this. I mean, we ought to be making this place better than when we found it. That's all. So everybody wins. You go ahead and put the right people on a board, stand back, watch them go to town. It's amazing.
What would you say as far as when you guys started in '98? What was the city's obligation, or how did the city?
The city helped us with things like and for the longest time the airport was kind of looked at as a cash cow, guys, at the time, because at the time they were able to sell quotas off of farm quotas of peanuts and cotton off that, but then the quota system went away, but still they were taking money from the airport and it wasn't being reinvested back into the airport. So when we started, I mean, we had like nothing. We had like 6 cruddy little hangars out there that got blown down in a windstorm. It was actually an F1 tornado that came through and demolished that. And we had a row of 10 hangars and we had nothing. And for a while we were making pretty ugly deals to get industry out there. I mean, we were making insane deals to get people in there, almost like, please come out here, and start your business, and we won't charge you much at all, but we gotta get some activity out here. There was a lot of that going on. I had well over $1,000 and thousands of hours of my time that I just dedicated, to that to get it going, but I knew we could get this thing up on the step, so it took a while. So the city was mowing our grass, and when you got a grass strip and all the grass around runways out there, 5,400 feet, that's nearly, statute mile on either side, that's a lot of grass cutting out there. It's a lot of time. You gotta have a guy out there to do that. So, they were helping us with that. But anytime there were trees out there, I was out there with chainsaws, cutting them down. A lot of this, it was sweat equity we were doing. But gradually, we're able to build this thing. And the thing about it is, we couldn't do it unless we had dedicated individuals who said, you know what, I'll help with that.
So I guess what I'm asking is from a funding standpoint.
Yeah, right. That was the funding. The funding that the city gave us, they really didn't, the funding that they would give us is like the 5%. Grant, okay, they would, and we thanked them for that, 1,000 times, They helped us with that. They helped us with the maintenance of the field out there. And they helped us with paying the insurance of most of the buildings we had out there. I'm talking about casualty, type, but we had all the insurance specifically for perimeter, and insurance out there. Somebody got hurt, and if there was an accident, God forbid. But that's all the funding that we had. But we didn't have any income either. We didn't have any money.
Yeah.
So the money was for, and we're getting ready to build more hangars, by the way. And we'll build more hangars occasionally. Every once in a while, the FAA will even give grant money for T hangars. It's insane, and you got to be in a position to grab it. And about the only thing that you have to do is make sure that you have to bid those out. Because normally with an airport authority, you don't have to make a bid. It's an autonomous, standalone group that works in concert with the rest of your local city government. The other thing is, it is darn hard. As a matter of fact, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Judge, but to really sue an airport authority, you have to get over the gross negligence hurdle before you can even do something like that, which is a protector of the city. An airport authority, we've already done this at Headland, will keep you out of trouble. We had some activities going out there where they were using they had a blueberry processing plant out there, but it was in one of the main hangars, close by. A big no-no. It wasn't aeronautical in nature at all. You can imagine what it would be like if the feds came in there at one time and said, "You guys are in violation of grant assurances. We put $2.8 million worth of goods in this field. Why don't you write us a check for 2.8? We'll call it even."
Yeah.
I thought you was big to say you found a meth lab out here.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we had to close that down.
Blueberries were a lot more profitable.
That and the stills, so.
That's right. And when you see Pete, and I thanked him, but when you see Pete, thank him again for me.
I will certainly. I didn't get your name.
I'm Rocky.
Rocky.
Lucas.
Okay, Rocky. Thank you. Yeah, thank
And
you.
apologize for me. I understand that by asking you to be here and putting him on the thing, all of a sudden his phone started ringing, and I probably took up half his day today.
That's okay, guys. Listen, we're here to help, and what are, I'm not gonna be here to vote, and that's up to y'all, that's up to y'all. But I felt like, I drove up here, we're gonna turn around and drive back. Thank God my wife came with me.
Why didn't you fly?
Because it was hot and sticky. So I just and as you get up, no, and I didn't want to spend the night, so I didn't want to fly back late at night. I've got over 20. I quit counting at 20,000 hours. I've flown off aircraft carriers day and night, single seat. I've had enough of that, So anyway, that's the deal. We wanted to help, and I really do. I come in peace. I know there's been a lot of agitation up here. And I'm not here to tell you, but I am telling you that you're gonna hamstring yourself.
Do you have a fence around it?
I do not yet. No, we do not. Guess what? There's like 100% funding for that. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
Fences, especially when you're farming on a field, is tough, open them, close them, everything else like that. But we have a great airport watch out there, we really do. And that's the other thing. Ray, do the police come out here and make sweeps out here at your airport?
Occasionally, yeah.
Yeah, well, we work in close, we work in close with the police. We beg them, come out here, we give them donuts, we do. You just come out and see the airport, and run around and get to know people. We ask them, when you come out to the airport, we expect you to go down to T hangars And if you see somebody there, just get out and talk to them. You know, find out what's going on. You know, I could leave a toolbox out there unlocked.
Don't worry about it.
It's okay. I got a call the other day. I was out flying around. A guy called me in Korea and said, Tuck, you left your car door open. I went, oh yeah, I do that sometimes. I jump out and I open the hanger up. And I was out during the aerobatics. He said, you want me to shut it? Well, yeah, I guess so, you know. Yeah. So it's a good deal, you know. And did you have a question, sir? You had a pen up.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing a lot of industrial development on your own as an authority.
Yes, we are.
How do you stop from creating animosity, and how do you have a good working relationship with your HIDB?
Well, I guess, you know, now I will tell you, there were times when, and you see it anywhere, you see it in the aviation world, especially in companies like FedEx, okay? We call it corporate jealousy. Kind of like, well, how come these guys get to do this? Or how come these guys get paid this over here, you know, or, you know, this, that, and the other. People start to pick at each other. Every once in a while, you know, you have to be big enough, I think, to work with people. I think when you can clearly show people that you're all, you know, all pulling together for the same goal, the animosities and stuff really just kind of go by the wayside. From the standpoint, it's kind of like, look, you know, we're developing this out here. You know, we hope you get to the point where it's like a just-in-time inventory, where you're getting your stuff out, because they're trucking a lot of stuff out. And I can imagine the day is going to be coming where they're going to be flying stuff in and out. Or if a part breaks on a machine, you know, you can try to send it FedEx, and of course that's a great thing. It normally works very well, but you can also fly a part in, you know.
We have a lot of companies that fly stuff in.
Yeah, fly
just in time.
Absolutely, fly parts in, you know, for machines. So really, as we got to get together and talk to these individuals and got to know them on a personal basis, and most of it, guys, is the knowledge base, because people sit back and it's the not knowing, which I think causes the anxiety and wondering like what's going on, like this poor soul who thinks that the airport authority is going to condemn his property and take it. Like, you know, it doesn't work that way. You know, it doesn't work that way.
We have a huge hurdle there to overcome.
Right. Well, I'm sure you do. You know, guys, it takes a big person. It takes both sides reaching out. You know, but the most important thing is having the established goal that is out there. It's I hate to use these words, but it is vision casting. You know, like you got to cast that vision, and at the same time, that doesn't mean anything if you can't tell people how to get there. But when you've got a good working relationship with your engineers like we do, by golly, I mean, the education I've got working with these guys is absolutely unbelievable, because I knew nothing about this stuff, you know, when I first started. But I wanted to learn. And the big thing, like I say, is education. You know, you probably got some very intelligent people that you're talking about, that you're working with. But ignorance of how things work can cause all kinds of problems, because people, like I say, the eminent domain. I mean, like, God, are you kidding me? I mean, that's not, that shouldn't even be a concern, you know. So
I know that you mentioned early on some of the foreign development down there, and
right.
That one project that you referenced there, one community was asked, and they were about to walk away. The Chinese were about to walk away because that one didn't have the wherewithal to do it. Well, somebody got on the phone, and the next thing you knew, there were 2 counties and about 4 communities working together to make that company stay. They never even got back on their plane and flew away.
Well, that's exactly right, and that's like I say, when you have people who are plugged in, have a game plan, and realize, hey, we can pull this thing together. I mean, you know, I'm not talking about, you know, people aren't going home at 5 o'clock and turning them to 2. I mean, we've got some dedicated people. It's kind of like there's a phone call at 7 o'clock at night. They're on the phone till maybe midnight talking to people and getting this thing done. You know, so it's you know, and of course, that's the way it is in China right now in manufacturing. Why do you think Apple is in China manufacturing? Because if they've got a design change, those little guys stay up to 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and punch it out, and the next thing you know, FedEx has got it here, you know, within 48 hours. You know, so Yeah, it's a big deal. You've got people that, if you're dedicated, you wanna get out there, if you're a cautious risk taker, you know, hey, nobody's gonna hand you this stuff. And you have to position yourself to be there to take advantage of it. You got a great airport out here, but it's stagnant right now.
When you first became an authority in '98,
Yes.
did the city's contribution to the airport go up substantially at first?
No, it didn't. It didn't, because,
I mean, did you hire the full-time people immediately when you became an authority?
No, I didn't. I was doing it gratis. I was doing it by myself, and I wasn't being paid. I was driving all over the state, making meetings, and I never took a dime. You know, I just did it because I knew we couldn't do it at that point. You know, but now, gee, Christmas, it's a good deal. And the thing that really helped was getting a great manager in there as well. And I could tell him something, I could give him the ball, and he would run with it, and I didn't have to micromanage. I hate, who likes to be micromanaged? I don't, you know, I don't. So, you know, it was just a good fit. It takes a lot, it's tough. It's tough. You can do it. Honest to goodness, you can do this, you know. Plethora of new terms and stuff that when your airport authority gets on board and starts to realize what's going on, and your engineering firm can walk you right through it. It's not like you gotta go out there and learn this stuff by yourself. It's out there, you know, it's out there. So I don't wanna come in here and make you think that, oh, by convening an airport authority, everything's gonna be fat, dumb, and happy. No, it's not that way. It takes work. It takes people bending, and it takes the time to educate people and educate them in such a way, you know, that you don't feel like, that person doesn't feel like you're being condescending or any other type of, like, you idiot, you don't understand, you know, you can't go about it that way. But at the same time, if the person is halfway rational and understands, you know, what is going on and what happens, it's kind of like, guys, you can fight amongst yourself and nothing's gonna happen, you know, or you can get together and push this thing through. It takes work, it takes time. Some people are not gonna be compensated, you know. I was never compensated, but you know what, the satisfaction I got on seeing this thing go was enough for me, you know. Maybe I'm an idiot, you know, or glutton for punishment, but I still think it is our civic duty, all of us, you know, when you get off this board here, or if you know, you're councilman, I'm assuming most of you, and when you get off this, I mean, things ought to be moving in the right direction. So, yeah, I take it personally that I wanna do this, you know. And the other thing is, we didn't care, especially with the Industrial Development Board, or even the mayor's office, we didn't care when we pulled off a great deal and things came together and fit. We didn't care who got the credit for it. Who cares, you know? Just as long as it gets done, you know? So that was, I think that right there was one of the things that we made sure that people knew. It's kinda like, hey, I could care less. I could care less if we got any credit for it at all. You know, it's kinda like, did it get done? Yeah, it got done, you know, so, that's it.
No pats on the back.
Yeah, that's right. So, will it take, people who are, you know, you're gonna have to have individuals out there who are not insecure, you know, people out there who are mature, adults, you know, who want to forward things, not so much for what they get out of it, because that was the biggest thing I ever heard in Headland, Alabama when I first got down there. What's in it for me? Like, are you kidding me? You know? And it was kind of breaking down what we call breaking down the good old boy network, because boy, it was there, you know. Well, I don't wanna do that because I'm doing this with this guy. It's kind of, guys, have you ever thought about just kind of pulling together and forgetting about all this, you know? It's like politics in the Mideast. The enemy of the enemy of my friend, you know? And so, you know, you think it's tough in Sylacauga. Try it in a town that's a third of the size, man. Geez, you could sneeze at 3 o'clock and at 3:05, everybody knows it. Yeah. You know? So the big thing is transparency, honesty, and lay it out there, what it is you're trying to do, you know? And if a person is gonna be a jerk about it, it'll be readily apparent, and I think it'll also be readily apparent to anybody else who's around here looking at it going.
This may not be a fair question,
Yeah.
but Headland, I don't know, comparable to size, your airport to ours.
The airport is absolutely comparable.
Okay, is it a fair question to ask you a ballpark figure of what it takes to operate your airport per year?
Boy, I wish Pete were here, because we have insurance costs on our hangars. We also have, we have ADM, of course, wants to test our water, and everything. Geez, those guys, they're the Nazis, you don't want to get those guys mad. But anyway, that is, but insurance is a big, and because we carry some pretty good deductibles and stuff, like on that that PAPI system was destroyed out there. That was $1,000.
So now, when you became an authority, your insurance, I mean, the city didn't furnish it anymore. You had to get your own.
We have some. We've kind of split it right now on the insurance, but we kind of duplicate our efforts on them a little bit, because where they carry pretty much the insurance on the building structures, we carry the insurance on the overall plant out there as well. Okay.
So as far as the liability and everything, you carry.
Absolutely. So, and we have to do that on our fuel too. You sell fuel, airplane flames out, and the first thing they look at, like, well, the airplane was running fine, till you got here, and by golly, Ray led over there, and so next thing you know, so yeah, we even have insurance, for that. But like Ray's fuel, like ours, the quality assurance is so good, and the filtration system, if you get water in the filter, it shuts down. You can't pump, So I don't know if that answers your question, but it fluctuates, especially when you get things like, you get to the point where all of a sudden, golly, you got a lot of growth out here off the end of the runway. The guy who comes out on an annual basis from the state to license your field says, you got too much foliage out here in the clearway. Well, that could be $10,000. Well, I gotta cut that stuff down. So we found out that we follow that up with Roundup or anything else we can. We probably put enough stuff on the ground out there that we need to have Harvey Updike.
Don't tell ADM about that.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, the ground smokes, So anyway, any other questions?
I do not.
And the other thing too is, I'll give you my phone number. You can call me. If you have other questions, it's kind of like, what about this? What about that? Or pick up the phone and call Pete. He doesn't mind. We do this. You've got his number, right?
Yeah, we got it.
Okay.
Well, I just got it off your website.
Yeah, that's right. We got a Facebook page too, and so we're blowing and going. So we sold over, I think, $25,000 worth of fuel this past month. We're killing it.
Wow.
How much do you sell, right?
Which is related to your traffic, your flow, right?
Yeah, and so we've got that on our website as well. People can pull up what's called nav. What is it? AirNav. Yeah, pull up AirNav. And say, oh, you're going to the Dothan area. I want to check fuel. There they come. You go down there. Oh, look at Headland. Oh, 550. And it's all service. Guys divert and come in. They look at Dothan, 7 miles away, $6.50. So it's kind of like, I think I'm gonna land in Headland. We're killing them. So it's great. Guess what, guys? Now it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. So.
Well, we appreciate you coming. We really do.
I'm sorry I took so much of your time.
No, absolutely not. Do not apologize.
I appreciate you having me up here. I'm excited for you. Regardless of how you vote on this thing. I don't have a dog in the fight, because really, if you guys don't have, there's only so much money out there. There's a finite amount of money out there. If you guys don't have an authority, that means I can have quicker access to money that I want, because if you don't use it and you're not in a position to capture that, it's going someplace else. It truly is, and incidentally, your airport authority, under Tommy's leadership, I'm assuming, big learning curve, guys. you know, big learning curve. You're gonna have to have people who wanna learn, you know, cause you just can't jump in there and say, oh, I'm an airport authority. Not good enough. Not good enough. We got a few of those.
Jim, we really appreciate it. Thank you for coming up here. Thank you for
Thank you.
taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed your time in Sylacauga.
I have. I've been up here quite a bit. Ray is this guy behind you back here is a true Renaissance man. He is. I've never seen, he is a.
Ray, is he calling you old?
He knows I am.
He'll probably be painting the Sistine Chapel later tonight.
Have
So,
a
anyway.
seat, please.
Okay.
I don't know what else they wanna do with us tonight, but, I came tonight, thought I would answer any questions that y'all might have, and, see if there's any loose ends that we need to tie up before Wednesday.
Well, I think we got everything as far as the application. That should all be completed with all the board members. Everything should, the application with the board members' names, that should be good to go.
Articles of incorporation,
Yeah.
everything's.
Bylaws.
That was done. I'm showing you a picture, I didn't have enough ink to make but a couple of them, but, lady handed me that, last week. And what you're looking at, it may be Wallace at the speakers, I don't know, but, anyway, I just thought you might wanna pass that around. That was, a picture that was made on November the 4th of 1963. It was a Sunday afternoon, and your airport was dedicated, at the sum total of $75,000 to build it. And, I thought there was a tag stuck on it, the reason I know that. Obviously, I don't remember it. First time-
1963.
First time I ever saw the airport was a couple of years before that, and it was a plowed up, strip. And I mean, it was literally a cultivated strip. And, I was 12 years old and rode my bicycle out there to look at it. And then at 16, I started flying off the field. Got all my ratings in Sylacauga. I don't have 20,000 hours, but I've got 5,000 hours. I've served on the Alabama International Airport Authority as its chairman. I have, worked for the state of Alabama as air transport coordinator for a year. And, I have done some other things that y'all may not be aware of because we haven't visited in a long time, but I just thought I'd throw that out. So I do have some experience, traveling around. I've been to over 20 states and visited with aeronautics departments and airports. I've done a lot of stuff. I've been on this board for since 1983, 31 years, and that's been my contribution to the city of Sylacauga, because as you know, we get paid a lot of money. Anyway, I thought I would come. I know that there's a lot of people that have a lot of questions you want to be answered. I hear people asking questions, but they're not sometimes getting answered. Mr. Lett's here with us tonight. Mr. Tucker's here, I'm here. If there are any questions, who's in what hangars, how much does what cost, how are we doing? Guys, we're here, and we're an open book to you, and always have been. I wish I could see your faces at the airport more often, but that airport's open to the public, and y'all can come out there if you want to. You don't have to be invited at any point in time. You've been out there, spent a number of hours out there, and we walked and we talked.
And we flew.
That's right, we did that day, I forgot about that. I give a lot of people a little short introductory flight. Mayor's even been flying with me a few times. Tom, I don't think you've been yet.
I'm not going.
Okay. That's your prerogative, but, anyway, it's been a good run for 31 years, and we've done a lot of fighting for the last few years, but we've also, in the early stages, of making the airport work, it's been a real pleasure to to do it, to work with the councils, the earlier councils. It was a little different than it is today. Of course, life is a little different, more complex today. But, you know, we're asking you to do this for one reason, and one reason only. A few months ago, you gave some property to someone else that was on the ALP. And the ALP, the response to that from the feds was not real kind. Some of you don't think it means what it means. I disagree, but you know, we have that right. There is a way to correct it, and that is to institute an authority of people that are dedicated only to the airport to make it work. And we can fix this. And I sincerely hope that, you know, whatever the costs are or whatever, I think the mayor and I can work those out. I don't know that I'm gonna be willing or able to work for free for the next 5 or 6 years, but I bet we can fix that out, work those things out, Mayor. But I know Jim did, and his airport's thankful to him. And I think you were originally, weren't you maybe given like that first 130 acres of land that some of that was developed?
Yes, it was, but it was incorporated into the airport.
At the time.
Yes, it was.
And then you came on when the airport was authority was established, or right after?
After the board was actually established in '92, but they didn't do anything until I got there. And then they just handed me the chairmanship. So
the authority was established in
'92, and those guys, I mean, they were doing some things, but they weren't working it like they should have. And they just didn't have. I mean, they were good guys. I mean, and they were thinkers, you know, and they laid the groundwork. They put it all out there. But then that's went with it, and it was kind of like, I mean, they really did the tough work. But then there wasn't that much going on with it. As a matter of fact, I remember the city clerk threw the books at me when I and she and I are friends now. Her name is Pris White, and Pris threw the books at me because they thought that I was taking something from them, when in fact, you know, that money that is generated at the airport with grant assurances by law is supposed to stay at the airport for reinvestment. Otherwise, it just turns into a cash cow where money is generated, it goes away, and it never comes back. You know, there's a reason that they implement those rules. So once I got on board on there, and what really got us going was the Industrial Development Board working with us. You know, we had a guy that was, you know, people don't understand, when you go up there to pick up a grant, the head of the IDB board, he goes up there to the county seat in Abbeville, Alabama, and is awarded a grant, and a woman sitting next to him kind of looks at him and goes, well, how did we got state comes down here and hands you a check for, you know, $80,000. What's this all about? She had no idea. They'd worked 3 years, you know, to bring this to fruition. So you need people with dogged determination to go ahead and set the sights and go for it. It doesn't happen overnight.
Now, you have an airport manager. You do not have a fixed base operator.
Yeah, we do have a fixed base. Now let's talk about fixed base operation. A crop duster on the field. He's technically a fixed base operation. We have maintenance on the field. That is a fixed base operation, okay? Ray is a fixed base operation as well. And Ray, do you manage out there as well? Does he manage the, okay, so he's a manager, I mean, I don't know.
Ray does everything there is.
I mean, he cuts grass, he does this, you know, so he's Renaissance man, but anyway, yeah, we have a manager out there, and we have.
But you don't have a Ray Litt.
No, I wish we had.
Okay.
Yeah, I wish we had. I'd steal him if I could.
Yeah, well, no, you're not getting it. But.
Okay.
You know, Judge, going back to what you said about the airport plan and us taking it out of it, I look at that as being Marge Wagner's fault. The city said they own it. Marge Wagner's responsibility, I thought, would have thought, that they should have checked to make sure that the land that they were gonna put into the airport plant belonged to the city.
Well, I came into this body under other people, and, Trish showed me where it was in the minutes at one time. And, I actually had already checked that, and I said it was in the name of the IDB. And, several of the people, even people on the IDB, swore up and down that that was not the case, if you recall. And, so, you know, that's what, I think I'm telling it right, Trish. That's what everybody went with. Bart Wagner was, in all honesty, Mr. Carden, they were told to do a task, and they did that task.
So there's fault to go around from everybody.
Well, if you.
IDB, city, and Board of Wagner.
Well, everybody was under a mistake, perhaps. I knew when I went, I had gone just weeks or months prior to that, over to Becky, over at my old building next door. And I said, tell me about this, pull it up on your computer. She did, and I said, all right, I want you to kind of outline this and tell me who all this property belongs to. And she said, it belongs to Industrial Development Board. She printed me out a copy of it. I came over here, and I think I said about where Joe's sitting right now, if I recall, when I made that night, and I said, look, guys, IDB owns this property, and everybody, oh no, we don't own that property, da-da-da-da-da-da. And so I just folded it all up, and I don't know what happened to it, but I don't have it anymore. So, yeah, even Pinky Pinkerton, at the time who was head of the IDB, acknowledged that the city owned the property. Because I met with, Pinky at the airport, thinking that he owned the property. And, before we came here, and the way your spec building wound up on airport property was Pinky asked me, he says, I wanna talk to you about, about getting 10 acres to put a spec building on. And, I said, well, I wanna talk to you about getting 10 acres of property to put hangars on. Well, I built one row of hangars down one side of it, and all that property now is in the name by deed, the rest of it, to the IDB. So we didn't get over 10 acres. So now, irregardless of how we got here, and what the circumstances are that led everybody up to it, those days are gone. I mean, we can't bring anything back to life, we can't rehash it, we can't redo it. It's the way it is. And, at this juncture, the FAA would like to give us money, but they can't because we have violated our sponsor agreements. That was plainly evident in the letter that each of you saw and that the city got. And, consequently, I'm pretty confident that I am absolutely correct that Mr. Grimes and the FAA in Jackson, Mississippi will basically allow us a start over. Now, starting over doesn't mean next year we're gonna get a big grant. What it means is we still get our entitlement monies, and we can still do some maintenance on the airport with our entitlement monies. But the likelihood of absolutely of us getting a grant, with grants tightening up. Now, I lived through the same days you did on this board as you did on your authority, and money in those days was quite easy to get.
Yes, it was.
It is not so easy today.
I understand.
And, so, you know,
But now you're referring to capacity grants.
I'm referring to capacity grants, but you can't grow an airport without a capacity grant. Now, you can do some safety items, and you can do some maintenance, but understand, you get a overlay of a 5,500 foot runway, you're looking at close to $1 million.
That's correct.
All right, now, you can save your capacity money for 3 years. and then it rolls over. If you don't use it, you don't get it. So $1 million overlay, and you got $450,000, and the grant assurances require that you keep it up. Now, there are some maintenance grants, but they're gonna be hard to get if you're in violation of your assurances, even for maintenance. You get them, and the FAA is obliged to tell you, as they have, that you were eligible for them and all that, but they didn't say you'd be getting them. They said you're eligible for them. When you step on their toes, they don't like it, and they tend to overlook. And that's been my experience with them, but if I like you, and you're spending money wisely, and you're doing good things, and you're developing your area, and you're making it easy for them to process money with you, then they will flood you with money.
It's just good stewardship.
How much acreage, say, without the 10 acres that was taken out of the actual plan is out there for possibility that the city owns or whoever owns?
There's still another, I'm thinking another 40 acres or so.
That
And
could
that-
be used for
There were 60
airport
total.
expansion.
60 total,
Right,
so,
60 total, 10 would be.
yeah, we got a little bitty sliver of it that the hangars are on out there. And then the rest of it, so this is close to 50, but that includes just 10 acres of spec building.
That's why I said 60, including
No, I
10
think,
for
no,
y'all,
I think
the
what
10 for
Billy's
them.
asking is how much land do you have, does the city have title to?
Didn't you ask them, no matter who owns it out there?
Yeah, I'm just saying, we took the 10 acres out and there's another 8 acres or so somewhere on the
There's
other
about,
side.
there's
18
approximately,
between spec building and hangars.
approximately 18 to 20 acres between the existing concrete of the hangar system and the edge of the 10 acres that the spec building is on. Then you skip that 10 acres, and then there's some additional acreage on the other side of it.
My thought, and this is, I voted to take it out because IDB owned the title. I'm the old type that if you got a title, it belongs to you.
Well, you're right. That's the way
My
it is.
thought would be, and I'm not speaking for these guys because I don't know how they feel about this. If, and this gentleman talked about everybody working together, IDB, the city and the authority. If we could get everybody together and sit down and say, okay, to make this thing work, we all gonna have to be friends. We can't have no, but
I understand what you're saying, Mr. Carden, and I agree it would be a wonderful world if we lived in it. But, you know, I'm afraid we have reached the point. See, that water is under the bridge and it's not gonna flow over it again.
But let me say this now, like I said, I'm not speaking for these people, I'm speaking for myself.
Oh, we would like to have the property.
If we could sit down and say, okay, say there's 18 acres here that we can use for expansion. Tell the IDB, you know, we need to work this out. Y'all take half, we'll take half. And let us decide what to do to put it back in the airport plan. Whatever acreage is be possible. Don't take it all away from them, but make sure that the airport's got some.
If we could get that 18 leading down to where the property starts, that would be great. That would help us as an authority win back some points with the FAA.
You know, I'm willing to do what it takes to make this place grow. I want to see the city grow. I probably won't be around to see it grow like it has in the past, but, you know, I'd like to see some start now of it growing, not 30 years down the road. The spirit of Silicaca needs to get back to where it was 20, 25 years ago.
I wish it could. I'd give anything to see that spirit back.
Yeah.
Anything. I worked hard on that airport, back when it was, we were one of the first airports to come out of the chute in the grant process. And, we started that, and, I came on the board in 19, been on it 31 years, I think, came on it, 80, I guess it was
84,
84.
4-year paper here.
Yeah. So, anyway, I do believe that, the first years where it just kinda sat there. The history of the airport was, it was a 3,000-foot strip. Asa Roundtree back in his day put some money into it, the state built it. I learned from this, it was like the price of $75,000. put that 3,000 feet of asphalt down. That's all we had in a block building smaller than this room. And that's what we operated out of, the 16 acres. Okay, then Kimberly Clark came to town and with, one of the airplanes. I flew for Kimberly Clark. I flew one of their airplanes. And they got because they were coming in and out of here, they got an additional, 1,700 feet of runway put onto it. Took it up, anyway, took it up to 4,200 feet, 1,200 feet of runway added to it. And then later, after we became a board, we worked with Jeremiah Denton and others, believe it or not, and we got some money through Congress, and I will tell you the exact amount of the grant. It was $987,000 in 1984. That was the first grant I worked on, and we got to refurbish the airport. We got to move the existing 6 hangars down, start on the admin building, the Dobson Staj Mahal, as some of the councilmen called it. And then we got to make way to put the clear the swamp out and put the taxiway in and some other things. That didn't come along until about 1990, 91. We had some fairly good times, and we had it rolling pretty good. And then along about 90-ish, it stopped. We finished up the grants we had, and nobody wanted to do anything at the airport for a number of years. And then we got it going again. We got a few other grants, and we're able to improve our apron. And y'all, during, I think it was 06, 07 time frame, wasn't it, Ray, when those 2 sets of hangars were built?
Yeah, I think so.
You built, I think it was a total of the 20 hangars. We got like 32 now. You've actually got more hangars than we got, but we got a couple a little larger.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we've worked hard to get here, but we got a lot of work left to do. And let me tell you about that. I'll stay here all night if y'all listen, but real quick.
We're not going to.
I know.
Come back tomorrow and you'll still be talking.
Yeah, I'll still be talking about the airport. People ask me why I love it. I don't know, but anyway, it's kind of what I do. So anyway, we've got some opportunity. Bessemer's airport is not functioning very well. As such, I learned this weekend that Shelby County's building some additional T hangars because some traffic's coming out of Bessemer that want somewhere to go. About a year and a half ago, first of the year, Birmingham really raised their rents on all their hangars, and several big customers were looking for places to go. And with that, some of the airports actually capitalized on that. Now, he's talking about building hangars. At some point in time, there will be some diminishing returns, but right now, there's not. Our hangars, we're full, aren't we, Ray?
Yeah, I may have one.
Okay, not sure, okay. But, I think we could put some other hangars in. I'm pretty sure. I would like to put some more larger corporate hangars in to try to attract somebody out of Birmingham to come down here and locate their large aircraft out of it. If we could ever get started with that, we could see something grow with it. Clanton is doing a full makeover of their airport, just like we did in the 80s. Alex City has got a major renovation of the airport building right now. If you go up and you look at St. Clair County, they've got a few little places here and there that they can build something, and they're gonna be kind of close. Talladega, they got 2,200 acres they're not even using, so I mean, Talladega can grow if it wants to.
Well, Auburn is blasted, it's just going.
Yeah, Auburn's going wide open, and that's coming along.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, I think we kinda
got the picture?
Yeah, I think we kinda need to get this reeled back into airport authority though, because.
I'm saying, here's what I'm saying.
Mhm.
Let us be your airport authority. Let us get back into stead with the FAA. Let us get on a sound footing, like he is, like the other airport authorities, and there are many of them in the state. Billy, if you could make that happen with the land, that's wonderful. But I have butted heads with land issues now for the last decade and a half. I'm getting a little tired of it.
I understand, and it's kind of frustrating to me to see this happen, but like I said, I can't speak for these guys. But I personally, although I voted to take that 10 acres out of that plan, I'm willing to say to the IDB, look, you know, we don't grow unless we have this. You either give us part of this land, or to split this land, you use this, we use this, or we can take it all away from you.
We can't do that.
I'm not saying do that.
Here's the problem, we can't do that. They would have to be willing to give that property back. That's the thing, that's
And
been.
they're not willing to do that.
That's been the issue from the get-go.
That's the reason we now need an airport authority. Mr. Carter. Gotcha.
Well, I was under the impression that, why did we vote to leave it with them when we could've took it out of the airport? Just put it in the airport. It was in the airport authority, we voted to take it out.
In the airport layout plan, yeah.
If we'd voted the other way, it would've been to the airport.
Well,
We were taking it away from them.
Not exactly.
Step one toward requesting it.
Yeah, they held title to the land. Basically, they would have had to agree. What we did was take it out of the airport layout plan because we realized we didn't own it. So that's what, and you can't have something in the airport layout plan, and they didn't agree. Now, regardless of what happened in the past, you know, whether there were conversations, and I'm sure there were conversations in the past that said, yeah, we can give you that piece of property if you ever need it. I'm sure that happened. The fact of the matter is, we had a piece of property in an airport layout plan that the city didn't own. That's what happened. So,
My mistake.
I have one last comment, if I may, very short. When we'll go back to condemnation issues, and misuse of powers. I had an attorney do a little bit of research, and, in Alabama, the cases, he says, all I can find dealing with airport authorities at all, any issue at all in the court system dealing, going back, I don't know how far they went back, but a ways.
That's the city of.
Is that they had a lawsuit to determine what just compensation amount, really meant. And it has nothing to do with condemnation powers. There's never been a case dealing with misuse or condemnation issues dealing with an authority. There's absolutely nothing in Georgia at all. The only thing in Florida was a case where the residents claimed that the sheer volume of aircraft flying over a residential area constituted a taking and therefore required payment, and the courts that disagreed with that premise. In Mississippi, there are many cases dealing with aviation, which is in the air, easements for takeoff and landing, and that's mostly.
Clearway.
Yeah, Clearway and Buckbusters and those stuff. Nothing, he says, nothing to speak of, I don't know what he means by that, nothing to speak of in Tennessee. So, from a legal standpoint, dealing with eminent domain, condemnation, whatever you wanna call it, is really not an issue. Because, as Jim told you, we can't condemn anything unless the FAA signs off on it. And if you were to see what we have to sign off on and do to condemn property, Dennis Butler worked with me and led the effort back in the 80s to start the condemnation process with the Poe property and the Merkles. And it reached a point where it was going to go to court. Merkel folded and says, I will sell the property, but I wanna sell all my property, I won't sell any of it. I tried to get the city to buy it, talked to Mr. Ogletree, he went to the mayor, the answer was no. I sold it to Mr. Billingsley, the city later bought it back from Mr. Billingsley, okay? And that's what, the property that is in dispute today is the property I tried to get the city to buy when it was condemned back in the 80s. Instead, it got all those stumps buried on it because Billingsley had to do something with the clearing stuff off the taxiway that he was building for us. He buried them out there, turned around, sold it, and made a couple $100,000, sent it back to the city. That's the way that property came to us, and it came to us starting out as a condemnation proceeding against the Merkles. But it settled. The Poe property, same thing, went down to the wire and settled before it went to court. And, so I'd just like to ease your mind, we're not gonna go out, we're not gonna condemn any foundries off the end of the runway, we're not gonna condemn any properties unless it has got public hearings associated with it, analysis, appraisals, everybody buys into it, and we gotta have the money. And
Environmental impact study.
yeah, now it's even got out of one of those. And now, I'd just like to make one comment about Mr. Tucker's situation. He's very lucky he's got land. We got just the airport. So, he's got money coming in, which we don't have. For us to get to be a position of being self-sufficient, we've got a lot more uphill work to conquer than I think maybe you did. We don't own past the ends of our runway, and we don't own any other acreage.
What does, I'm losing you, Tommy, what does that have to do with how they're self-sufficient? What does his land have to do with how they're self-sufficient?
We don't have any land to build buildings on.
No.
It generates their income.
Okay, T-hangers,
T-hangers.
we got those.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you can build more.
We can, that's right, we can
We have to
generate
land.
revenue from that, which
Yeah.
we're not doing
We
right
are.
now.
We're keeping the doors of the airport open with it.
Tommy, I think you understand what I'm talking about.
I understand we don't get, the city doesn't get the money.
Thank you.
You're right.
That's something you guys should work.
Yes.
But I guess that's what I'm saying, as far as funding goes. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, he talked about, Jim talked about the airport in Headland being a cash cow for the city or town of Headland.
That's correct.
It costs the city quite a bit of money to keep our airport doors open every year. I mean, it costs us, even though we don't appropriate a dime, as far as a budget goes. We don't appropriate it, we do it on an as needed basis. And it costs a lot of money. Yet, the way things stand right now, we don't reap any of the benefits from the rental of the hangars, the rental of the space that Lifesaver has. We don't get, yet we cut the grass, we maintain the facilities. Anything that goes wrong, AWAS goes down, pick up the phone, call us, we fix it. So, I guess that's kinda my point. There's income to be made there.
There is income.
That we might not be taking full advantage of.
And there's also expenses that we're not having to pay. Because we're not gaining that revenue you're talking about, we're not having to pay the gentleman sitting right behind you to manage and operate the airport. That's the trade-off.
Okay.
There are other places that do both. And most others
In
do
St.
that.
Clair County, to give you a prime example, they ran their FBO off.
They did what?
They ran their FBO off, I think actually he died, isn't that right, Ray?
Where's that?
St. Clair
St.
County?
Clair?
Was that the guy that died in the breezy or whatever?
Yeah.
And
Not supposed to be with him.
they took over the airport, and they decided we're gonna run it. And all of a sudden, they found out that when you run it with city employees or county employees, in the case of St. Clair County, that, they found out what costs really were. And we got a good deal. I'm not trying to say that we couldn't have a better deal, but we've got a good deal in comparison to trying to go out there and run that facility with city people.
I don't disagree with you one bit.
Yeah.
I agree that we have a good deal, but the statement about not having ways to generate revenue is simply not true.
Well, the kind of revenue he's talking about, most of that money came from the crops in the field, from the property that they had, and rental on buildings, not hangars, buildings that they had off the way that are outside of the purview of having to be aviation. That's where the majority of that income comes from.
And then we have quite a bit now from, hangar rental and
Right.
fuel sales. You know, we're killing it
Right.
on fuel sales.
Yeah.
That's improving.
Yes,
We don't get
absolutely.
any of that either.
But when you started, the funds
Oh,
were.
it was depressing.
He's got more fingers than we do.
Right.
Yeah, and we could be in a position to start doing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
And
you-
Mayor, if you recall, I had come to you ever since you've been on councilman and talked about why we need to have additional hangars out there. And actually generate some income from them and start a hangar program.
Well, you know, we've absorbed a lot of information. Jim, thanks again. I
You're
mean,
very
you were
welcome.
very informative.
I know, I hate to,
Judge.
it's like getting a drink of water from a fire hose.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
So-
That's right. So ultimately, what we have to decide now, guys, do we wanna put this on the agenda to vote on Wednesday morning? The ordinance that we wanna put on the agenda, which ordinance is that? That's what we have to decide. The one we decided on at the last,
Articles of incorporation.
yeah, but the
Yeah.
ordinance was the one
I didn't
that
print the
went.
one you sent me out that said resolution. I didn't print
Yeah.
that out, cause I figured you'd print that out.
Well, that's fine, we don't need it. The one that Wynn did 3 weeks ago,
Well, he did about 14.
that basically said,
Yeah, three overdose.
no.
I mean, we've got about 14 of them in this.
I can
In
email.
current,
By
the
the
last
way,
one,
the
the
one
last
pager
one
that's
they
nothing
did
but
was just
straight
the
from
one.
the code.
You
one
can
page
email
is
That's
it.
right,
great.
that's the one we,
Can I
that's the
email
one
it
we
to you?
talked about.
You emailed it, I
You
know
can
you
get
That's
got
the
that
it.
one.
ordinance.
Okay,
The one
I can get
pager.
the resolution,
Yeah.
I mean, the resolution that Wynn has.
That's right.
I
Yeah,
can get it.
email it back to you right now.
no,
Is
we,
that
I
not
mean,
it right there?
but
No,
that's,
that's the
we don't need
application
that.
and the articles
We
of
don't need that, we
incorporation.
just need to make sure that's the one for Tricia's sake, so she can make the, so she can finish the agenda, we need to make sure that's the one she wants to send, or wants to put on the, or that's the one we
You
wanna
want
put.
me to get the last
the
one that
agenda.
Wynn put together?
Yes,
Okay.
It'll take me a little while to find it, Trish, but I can send it to you.
it's this one.
It's a one pager, yes.
Yeah, I've got it in there.
So is that, do we wanna put this on the agenda for Wednesday, yes or no? Yes, okay. And that ordinance that Tricia's holding is the one, or the resolution that Tricia's holding is the one we wanna put on there,
This is what I got
correct?
today from Tommy.
Yes or no?
It is not on.
Yes, okay. Trish, that's what we'll put on the
I didn't
agenda
give you that.
for
You won't
Wednesday.
find it in my stuff.
That's what I said, this is what you brought me today, that is not what you brought me today, so this and this go together.
Right.
I'm not sure what you've got. This is what I got today from Tommy.
There should be articles of incorporation, should be an
There are.
application
There is.
and a resolution.
And the resolution, I'm adding to it now.
Okay,
Because the resolution is not in the package that Tommy brought me.
okay.
Right.
Alright.
Okay, and these are not signed.
No, that's just an example. I've already got the signed ones and I will be getting them signed. Who wants to sign? I've already made arrangements to do that if we,
What's that we gotta get signed? The application or the
no,
articles?
it's not for the city to do, it's for the
The articles of
authority.
incorporation, that your resolution and all of that is part of.
We gotta have that.
Yeah, but it's for us to have.
It's for, it's gotta be
The
signed.
The new, no, it's not All we need from you is the resolution signed by you and, the mayor and Trish. And then
The others,
we,
they have to.
According to what Wynn said, we've gotta have articles of incorporation signed and an application signed before we can do anything.
no,
Yeah,
you've gotta have the proposed articles of incorporation that you have. And you've gotta have the application that you have signed.
We have a signed application.
That's right.
The application is signed.
Yes.
okay.
And then as soon as that's done, I attach the signed articles of incorporation with a certified copy of your ordinance, or resolution rather, and then we record it, and it's done.
Okay.
And then he gets copies.
That's right, everybody gets copies at that stage.
Okay, well, it's on the agenda for Wednesday.
Thank you, sir. I hope y'all will give really concerned and grave consideration of it.
Alright.
And let us take it and run with it, and see how far we can take the airport.
Okay, alright. Well, thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it.
Take care.
See ya.
You're doing the right thing. You're working. Congrats.
That's what a bad thing.
Huh?
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You doing?
Oh, Jay, I'm hanging in there like a hair and a biscuit.
None of that biscuit.
I'm gonna make an executive decision to roll this over. Guys, it's 9:15. We had 3 things on the agenda, or we had 3 people here tonight that weren't on the agenda. One of them was, that weren't originally on the, that I didn't even know about when I was getting the agenda together, so, if we could, and Trish, I know that Jared and them came at the last moment, you know,
Well,
kinda
that
showed up
was,
at your doorstep.
I think that was, between Doug and me, I think that was our fault.
Okay,
Because we told him when we met with him that we would, and I didn't, and you didn't, and
yeah,
he put it in his calendar to be here, so that was,
right. Okay, well, I mean, that's
that was just
fine.
something that,
And
It's
then,
an
you know,
oversight.
Greg came for a little bit, and then, you know, apparently Jim Tucker was at it, you know, Friday afternoon. So, guys, what I try to do is set this agenda so that we're not here till 9 o'clock. I mean, I really try hard to do that, and if,
I turn people away if they haven't brought me what they need by noon, I turn them away.
that's right. But I guess if y'all could just maybe, if we could just do maybe a better job of shoot me a text, or shoot me an email, hey Rock, I've got so-and-so that needs to be on the agenda, and what I can do, like for instance, like with Jim Tucker, he needed to be there, but I could've shuffled some of this other stuff around. You know, we could've picked another time, say for interviews, or, you know, we could've done some things differently, cause I try to get us out of here early, I really do, because, you know, 4-hour work sessions, or 3.5-hour work sessions are just not fun. So, let's do that, let's roll these, the bottom 3 things, the discussion of reimbursement resolution, CDG proposal, discussion of update tobacco tax ordinance. Let's roll those over, please.
Okay, I can tell you about the tobacco tax ordinance, and y'all can think about it between now and then. All you've gotta do is put a unit to measure loose tobacco.
Basically, pipe tobacco.
Well, Farmers Market,
Yeah.
for example, is selling loose tobacco now. There's another person that's coming to town, and they wanna pay their taxes, but I don't have a measurement for it.
Right.
So you're gonna have to add an ounce.
Okay.
You know, instead of a pack, or it's packaged, but it's packaged in ounces or whatever.
Sure, okay.
Loose, a weight, a measurement for loose tobacco.
Okay. Alright. We've got a few things, and, Ken in the court office has quite a bit of stuff as far as training goes from time to time, and very seldom is he here, and I thought we were kinda trying to get, you know, maybe if the department head has training, obviously Ken doesn't need to be here for the refund of overpayment of $360, but he probably needs to be here because I think that's something that we kind of have discussed for training, and kinda my policy from now on, guys, if we've got employees here that have things on the agenda, or if Karen's here doing accounts payable, I'm gonna run them in first and get them out the door before we do anything else. Now, if they choose to stay, then that's up to them. But I really think, I mean, we can go ahead and move with this stuff because one of these things is August 22nd. But I think we need to have a conversation with, just remind these department heads that if they have training or they're asking for funds for training, they need to be here, and we'll get them out of here in a quick fashion. So y'all can read, y'all see what we got on there. Okay, we have utilities board appointments.
Let me ask one
Okay.
quick question there. If the department head can't be here, can he send a representative?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Somebody from the department.
Okay,
I'm
somebody
sorry.
from the department.
I'm sorry.
Like Matt.
In
Yeah,
some
yeah,
cases,
Chris, that's right.
in the case of the court office, those employees, everyone except the department head are overtime employees.
Is the assistant,
Yes.
okay.
And that's
In
what,
the court
and,
office, every one of the employees, with the exception of the department head, is an overtime employee.
and that's what I'm saying. I can get them in here and get them out real quick. If it's training stuff, I mean, what I've started doing is anything that employees have on the agenda, on the work session agenda, they go first before anything. So that they can, if they are overtime employees, get them out the door. So, utilities board, parks and rec, we've got those appointments coming up. We got one spot obviously on the utilities board. There are 8 applicants. There are, I can't remember, there are 2 openings on the parks and rec board. I can't remember how many applicants. We also have 1 applicant for the Board of Adjustments and Appeals.
How many vacancies?
Currently, the Board of Adjustment and Appeals is shut down because they don't have enough members. So what I'm asking, if this gentleman is willing to serve on the Board of Adjustment and Appeals, do we just wanna appoint him Wednesday morning?
I'm fine with that because I asked him to apply.
Okay.
I know his background and
Okay.
his integrity.
I mean, I guess this is kinda my way of thinking. We're having a hell of a time finding people to serve on that board. If we've got somebody that's willing to serve, let's go ahead and let them serve.
How
Also,
many openings, I'm sorry, Tom, how many openings do you have on the ZBA?
2?
on the what?
Two.
On the-
Zoning Board of Adjustment.
Oh, the
CBA.
Board of Adjustments and Appeals.
It's
I don't-
technically the zoning board of
Right.
adjustment.
Yeah, 2 at least.
Robert Bowers.
But what I was gonna say is there's some recertification
I think he
that's
was-
coming up for all the people that went through the certification 2 years ago. And he can sit in on that, at least have a working knowledge of.
There you go. So
Are
if
we
you're,
gonna do that here?
if,
I hope so.
so if y'all are
I wanna
okay,
go to Decatur for,
if y'all are okay with appointing him, just going ahead and putting him on the board,
Who was it?
let's do that when, I'll have to get the name. Who, I'm sorry?
Ed Kroll.
Okay.
Spell it.
YLE.
CROYLE. And, yeah.
CROW.
I just had to.
CROYLE, Croyle.
Now, we got that knocked out. Parks and Rec, when is a good day? Do we wanna do that at our next work session?
How many applicants?
In 2 weeks,
What's that?
4?
We mentioned something about, we may need to put it on this agenda. We talked about it the last time, but we didn't act on it, and we have to act on it before we can do that, about adjusting the start time of the work sessions.
Yeah,
I'm not saying, yes, I want to start them earlier, but that was one of the discussions as we were walking out. But if we quit forgetting to act on it, then,
yeah.
as Trish pointed out that night, can't do it.
But, you're right, do we wanna try to do all 4 of those in one?
Let's don't make that change Wednesday. because I'll have to redo the ordinance.
Okay, okay,
So let's put it on the next one.
okay, alright.
I'll have it
So,
ready.
what is a good date for everybody? Do we wanna do it at our regular work session? Do we wanna call a work session? Y'all tell me.
Whatever you wanna do.
Can we call one before the other one?
Yeah, I mean, we got the 11th, 12th, Wednesdays are never good for anybody, and we got the 14th. So 11, 12, 14, that's Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday
No, I'm
next
talking
week.
about right before the next work session. I'm talking about like,
Call one at 4:30.
right.
Well, yeah, we can just
There's
have,
four
we can just,
people, 15 minutes, let's do it at 4:30.
we can just call, we can just have a work session we can start our work session, called work session at 4:30
And then the regular work session.
to
at
immediately
5:30.
follow up, to immediately follow, okay?
So that'd be the 18th.
So we're gonna do Parks and Rec on the 18th.
Wait a minute. The 18th,
Yeah.
had a call today from Bob Green. Jim McClendon is gonna be in town on the 18th and wanted to know if he could come, if we could gather here and have a discussion with him and ask him any questions that we wanted to ask.
What time?
4 o'clock.
Okay, let's start our work session at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
Call the work session at 4 o'clock.
And along the same lines, Thursday night, if I may, go
Yeah,
ahead
sure.
and bring this up. Thursday night at Carib in Lincoln, from 5:30 to 7:30, there's gonna be a reception and meet and greet for him. All the council members and mayors are invited in the county. So, that's Thursday night. And there'll be light hors d'oeuvres. Horse divers. But y'all remember that you're invited to that Thursday night
Okay.
in Lincoln at Carib.
Okay, so on the 18th, we're gonna start our work session at 4.
Let me make sure that that's when he wants.
Okay,
Interviews for what board?
Parks and Rec.
Okay.
Utilities Board. This is the 4 of you. I'm not going to be involved with these interviews. I can't vote on the Utility Board appointment. So, with that being said, y'all just tell me when y'all wanna see, we got 8 applicants. I would recommend doing 4 and 4, but this is your puppy, so you tell me what you want, to do. And when you wanna do it.
One I don't wanna do is to have 3 or 4 nights of it because somebody can't make it. Can we ask the people an A and B preference?
We
So
can.
that we, you know what I'm saying?
Well,
So-
what I was thinking is we schedule 2 nights.
Right, I understand that, but I didn't wanna schedule 2 nights and have the 8th person say, well, I can't make either one of those nights. So let's try to, if
Let me
somebody
check.
else can move around, cause if one night's full and the other one's not, and said, I can't make it that night because they were the last one called, see if we can move some things around and get them all done in those 2 nights.
Okay.
Let me check
Had that
about
done
the
before.
18th on
What do you?
whether or not he's coming.
Well,
and
what
I'll let
dates
y'all
do you
know.
want me to throw out there?
I don't really have a.
I mean, I'll get them scheduled, don't get me wrong there, I mean, I'll get them
How
scheduled.
about Thursday the 14th is the first day,
Okay, 8, 14.
4:30, is that good?
Hard for me to say right now, cause I don't have, I didn't know we were gonna be picking odd
Thursday.
days, we were usually doing Mondays, so.
14.
Alright, August 14th,
Utilities board. We doing 4 spots that day?
That's what I would suggest, but I mean, y'all do whatever you want to.
Is there a problem with Monday nights?
Yeah. That Monday, the 11th is for me.
'Cause I don't know about August the 14th.
What about the 12th? The Tuesday night.
Nope, I'm not. That's why I said the 14th. 14th or 15th.
Alright, and then we've got got council meeting, or, I'm sorry, we got work session the 18th, council meeting the 19th, so those 2 days are out. You got the 21st of August, and you got the following week.
What have you got between?
14th, 21st, or 25th are my dates.
What have you got before the 14th?
That's what we said.
21st and what?
Hey, Joe's out.
So anything but Mondays.
You wanna go with that 21st? What is that, on a Thursday?
14th is a Thursday.
Okay. The
The 18th or 21st is fine.
I'd rather go with the
That's the day.
21st.
The 18th, I said no on the 18th, cause
Or
of our
got
dates
Parks
on
and
it,
Recreation.
which is why I came down to the 14th, 21st, and 28th.
I think,
25th, I mean.
I mean, I think this appointment should probably be made the September 3rd.
Yeah, so we need to do the 21st.
And we won't have a or a long work session on that day.
And you don't know about the 14th or 21st, cause they're both on Thursdays, right?
Right,
So we got scheduled 2 nights to get them in, not just one night.
I'm not saying no, I'll can whatever it is, but those are generally pretty
How about this?
active nights.
How about y'all go home, you look tonight, and either give me a call and text me your open dates for the rest of August. Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday.
All right, on the 18th, which is a regular council work session, that is the day that the Republican Party or local Republican Party guys want to bring him, McClendon here, so,
Yeah.
4 o'clock, so, is that, do y'all wanna do that? Do y'all
Yeah,
wanna
we
meet-
did that while you were gone.
Do y'all wanna
Yeah.
meet with him at 4 o'clock?
That's what we did.
Okay,
At 4 o'clock?
On the 18th, and then they'll start interviews at 4:30.
well, now, I don't, so you're just gonna,
He's gonna be in this building.
yeah, he'll be right here in this room, I guess, or wherever we want him to be.
I say you start at 5, cause I just don't think you can be, I don't know that you can be done, I don't know that we can be done in 30 minutes.
Yeah, well, we need to
I'd
give
hate,
him an
I'd
hour.
hate to schedule interviews at 4:30 and not get started till 5.
Okay. Yeah, we need to give him an hour at least. Or
That
I'd
at
say
least
an hour.
adds a little more time to them for the interview.
Yep.
Okay. So the work session on the 18th, Trish, will start at 5.
Okay,
But he will be here at 4.
We don't have to send out a notice for a meet and greet though.
Well, but we're gonna assemble, so we gotta notify the press.
for what purpose?
We don't
Because
have-
we're gonna assemble.
No, you
The
don't have
council
to.
is going to
It's
assemble.
a social, it's a
Well,
social.
it's not really a social, this is a time for you to ask him any questions or tell him anything that we expect, or we would like to see him help us accomplish during the next,
That's the
during this
leader
term.
of our local
Build
delegation.
that bridge across Coos River.
Yeah, but I mean, this will be an actual work,
Yeah,
it'll be a time, now, if the thing Thursday night is a meet and greet, that,
up in
in
Lincoln.
Korean, but this is actual time,
Okay, well then we'll call it
Okay,
at
now
4.
who is he and what is he?
it's Jim McClendon,
He's-
he's
he's
a Republican
Senator
candidate.
elect, District 11 Senator
He
elect.
beat Jerry Field.
He's not yet.
He's still got,
He's the
he's still
senator
got,
elect.
he's still gotta be the.
No, he's got
Democrat.
he'll be a senator elect
Yeah,
in
Democrat.
November.
If he beats the Democrat.
He's not the senator elect yet. He's gotta be.
Sure there's a
he's-
Democrat?
Sure. There's one in, he's gotta run in November.
I
Now,
was pretty certain that one was unopposed.
no,
but-
there's a Democratic candidate.
Okay, so what do I need to send out on that one?
4 o'clock,
No,
18th.
what do I need to send out? What is it?
It's,
It's a meeting with Jim McClendon.
informational session with Jim McClendon.
Republican candidate.
Lead, greet, and complain.
I mean, we're,
So,
If he truly has an opponent in November, then there's nothing wrong with us getting together for a conversation with him. Cause he can't, there's nothing official. Can't be.
that's right, I mean, that's
I mean,
kinda
it's
my
just
point.
politicking.
There's just a politician.
But just the fact that this council assembles,
But we're not,
you're
we're not
not
assembling to
assembling
conduct
for-
business.
You're just meeting the Republican candidate and
okay.
hearing his platform is what I'm hearing y'all all say.
I mean, because we're gonna be asking questions and, I mean, he can't do anything, cause he's not elected. He's just a candidate.
unless he's, as Tom said, the senator-elect, then that puts it in a different light. You're asking him
I
to do
will
something
check
on
and
your
see
behalf,
that,
but
check on that.
if he's still a candidate,
You can
Then-
ask him what he will do if elected.
he would be explaining his platform and,
He'd just be politicking.
That's right.
but if it's a closed meeting and, you know, then that kinda puts it in a different light too. I don't know. I'm stuck on this.
Look, why don't we
I
just, look, it's
I
just.
just had the council
Invite him
meeting
anyway,
with him.
invite him.
Why don't we
just call it
a
at
special
4?
work session starting at 4
Call
o'clock,
it-
and we'll be meeting with Jim McClendon and interviewing members of that are applied for the Park and Rec Department,
Just run it all together.
Sure.
Yeah, works for me.
followed by our regular work session.
Okay, so I'm back to 4 o'clock.
Okay, 4 o'clock, August 18th, let it be written, let it be done.
What do you think?